let's turn that on. Okay. So, yeah, this would be a little special catch-up session for PB. And we're going to dive right in since it's already a little later at night for us on a Wednesday. So we don't want to take up too much time, but we'll go ahead and run through this. So I thought it'd be kind of cool. So if you remember, and you may not, because it's been a few days since you've played in this campaign with Nardu, or Nadu, you had just completed fighting a horde of zombies in the second portal that was down to the south of the tomb you guys had found, going through the black door. You came back. A couple of you decided to stay in the tomb to guard it because everybody was worried about possibly zombies coming in, and you didn't want Wilkins to shut the gate down because you guys kind of talked him out of it, because he was kind of, if you go back and watch that episode, he's kind of on the brink of maybe I'll just shut the portal down completely, and you guys kind of talk him out of it. And at that point, to rest, you, Taugrum, and Estella head back to the inn that you were staying at, which is I wrote it down, the Absent Sword. Open that up so I can see it. The Absent Sword Tavern, which I have circled here, is where you've been staying, and the Wilkins himself has been paying your guys' rent. So you were there. We had a cool little scene of you going back, hanging out with the other group that you had saved previously in the tomb. And then that's kind of where we ended it at that night. The other group picked up, the part you missed was the group took about 10 days to take a rest and train, because everybody made it to the next level. So everybody wanted to be able to kind of level their characters up. So we needed some time for that. So we're kind of gonna jump into that. But everybody kind of went their own ways to do their trainings. And then when they came back, they went to Wilkins and they said, okay, they were ready to go back to that portal to see if they could find out any information. When they arrived there, just so you know, they received a note from you, Nadu, that said, I have a personal thing to take care of. I'll be a couple days late, but then I'll catch up. And it was just kind of scrawled. It wasn't a lot of detail. Signed by you, delivered to Wilkins. And so they kind of looked at it and thought, yeah, okay, well, you know, Nadu's a big girl. She knows how to take care of herself. She'll probably catch up to us in a couple of days. So they decided to go ahead and go down into and check out the portal further, believing that you would be catching up to them, you know, a few days after. So to tie that back in, what I thought we would do is that's kind of the recap of what had happened in that between session. So the one thing I know we want to do for sure tonight is let's give you your opportunity to do your training montage. So for basically with the others, what we did, I don't know if you watched those episodes or not, but we gave the RP of what the character was doing while learning whatever new things they picked up. But also then we just went back over the mechanical part, kind of out of character part of it, and described a little bit about what you gained. So as I recall, most of your teammates took the stat increase. So they RP'd their way how they got either more wisdom, more intelligence, more dexterity, or things like that. None of them took a feat, so none of them had to explain that away. One of them got a new spell. So they got that from the school. And that was kind of about it. So it wasn't too crazy of a training montage, although it was pretty good. So what is Nadu's training montage going to look like? What are you getting when you go to 4th level? And how do we want to RP that?
Well, one of the things about Nardu is that she actually has a bitter rival that she will do anything and everything to be better, to prove myself superior to them. And I also took the stat increase to my charisma, and my dexterity. To go along with this pub crawl, I guess I'll make it that has been making a name for herself as Naru, um, the Sword Coast. Although not very far, um, admittedly. Not too many places know the name that well, but they will. She makes it her mission that everybody in this city of Silvery Moon knows that Nardo Calvigi is the best dancer ever existed. It's from she goes on the pub crawl to every inn, and she makes her presence known, and she performs her her butt off.
Awesome.
She also learned two more spells. She learns a cantrip and a big girl spell. And so for go along with Naruto's shady shady self, picks up minor illusion. She finally gets what that is.
Is
She's
that
been
the
trying
cantrip? That's the
to
new
learn it.
cantrip.
Yeah, it's a cantrip. Minor illusion. So she finally figures it out. She's been trying for ages to learn how it goes. And maybe, oh, what is her name? Elena? Estella.
Estella. Yep.
Estella helps her out a little bit. And she's like, this is what you're doing wrong. It goes like this. And I do the movement, and I say it a certain way, and the incantation goes a certain way, and I'm like, minor illusion. I as my first trick, I a large ball of that slowly from it emerges a flame. We'll say it's something like that.
Cool.
And that is her first minor illusion.
It'd be kind of cool too
Making it
that
seem
to
that this
explain practicing it some is that not only are you able to dance because your dexterity and your ability to dance moves, but maybe you use that minor illusion cantrip to enhance the performance. So it's like you're dancing, but it's also like you're dancing with while twirling fire kind of things, but you can control the illusion to make it look like you're controlling balls of fire or batons of fire or arrows of fire, swords of fire, whatever you think would sound cool that enhances your dance. Even I think would be really cool, and that would give you that you were practicing and working with it over several days as you go to this pub crawl and using it out.
Oh, for sure. It's 100% for the performance because as being a Phoenix sorcerer, at first level, I'm able to just ignite anything with my bare hands, no, with only taking an action. So I've been using that to have flame on my hand or on whatever for my performances to one up.
Yeah, that's cool. Or even like in the Olympics they do that streamer thing that they hold around. It's like a ribbon, a colored ribbon, but yours could be like a colored ribbon of fire, magical fire that you're controlling that makes it look pretty cool.
It'll be like, you have no way to watch them because I'm the one that has them on my hard drive and I haven't put them up yet. One shot we had my character was so the place we had just come from rowdy, and I had this light cantrip essentially in that system. I could touch somebody and that item would become light or whatever. It's sort of like the light cantrip. That whenever I touched our fighter, she would light up completely. And in Spirit of Party Rowdy, it strobed like a rave. It just went through different colors.
Nice.
And so I'm imagining the same thing.
Yeah, with minor illusion you can do all kinds of really cool things like that.
So I'm just imagining that with fire ribbons and just making it stronger. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
like
what she does.
all kinds of different performance stuff. Cool, cool. So on the second one of the reasons I thought that maybe you were late to the meeting or late catching up to the other party is that I was hoping you were getting a high level or at least a higher level spell. And what I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping that we can do with it is that the spell you wanted, you had talked to a few people in the Maress School of Thaumaturgy because normally they could just open their spell books because there's wizards and sorcerers and stuff there and say, yeah, you could just copy this down because they offered you those services to help train you guys since you were performing services for the school. But what I'm thinking is that whatever the spell you chose maybe was one that is rare and nobody had one, or there is a person that has one, but it's going to take a couple of extra days for you to travel to where they are to get it so that you can learn it and understand it. And when so that's the reason that you weren't back in the 10 days. You actually get back to the town maybe a couple of days after. So you do your 10 days of pub crawl and you go out to the north. There's an old hermit wizard that knows the spell that you want. They've arranged it so that he will train you in it. You go there, you train, you learn it, and then you come back. And then that puts you just 1 or 2 days after the other group is gone, which would explain away why you didn't go down to the portal with them.
Yeah, we could finagle that out. The spell I took was just Chromatic Orb, which is just a basic old first level, but we can finagle that out because Naru is very much about the fire. All about the fire. She loves the fire.
Yeah, and let's say, I mean, you would have had it for the wizards, but what they realized maybe is that since you're a sorcerer, that they needed another sorcerer to teach you it. That the way the wizards learn it wasn't working for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
And I was just able to make fire work. Fire maybe like the Chromatic Orb offers you, but I couldn't get the other ones to work. It just wasn't happening. So they offered me the services of this old wizard.
Yeah, and he's kind of like a
And
recluse that lives north of town by a day's travel. And then, yeah, you go up there, you stay, you end up camping out. It turns into one of those like almost like those funny kung fu movies where he makes you carry buckets of water first, and then he makes you clean the building, and the whole time it's all stuff that you don't think has anything to do with learning the spell. But in the end, it's all motions that you use to cast the spell, and he's just reinforcing them using weird, mundane things that you hate, that you just absolutely despise.
yeah,
Be like, wash the
why I
floor.
like this is why I left home, so I wouldn't have to do this anymore.
Yeah. Then you have the epiphany moment at the end of, oh wait, the actual movement to cast that spell is the motion of the sweeping or the washing the floor or whatever it ends up being.
Suddenly, wax on makes so much more sense,
There you go.
and then wax off. Ah,
Now I get it.
thank you, Mr. Miyok. I mean, a sorcerer wizard.
Yeah, and actually when you get there, he just has you call him old man, and that's what everybody else calls him. Like nobody has ever known what his name was. He never tells anybody. Everybody refers to him as old man.
Because of my amazing 18 charisma. No.
Or if you can think about it too, if you've watched the movie Kill Bill, when she goes and learns from the monk, it's kind of that same kind of thing.
Yeah, and through all this training, I also have just been invigorated more. Like a little bit more of my natural power has just begun to emerge, and I gained just another sorcery point. So I go from 3 to 4.
Yeah, nice. Nice. Okay. So, all right. So, feel good with that training montage? You want to add anything to it, or you feel we're okay there?
I think so. I don't think I updated anything else.
Okay. It's funny because I made
Oh,
this.
my height.
yeah, I mentioned this in my other thing. Like the other group that you're a part of, when everybody hit 4th level, almost all of you took feats or multi-classed, like to a whole other class. This time around in this group, everybody took the stat increase.
Yeah, it just not hard. I tried very hard to find a feat that I wanted. I almost took Elemental Adept, which would make any element I wanted, whichever one I chose for that feat, that no one had a resistance to it. So no one could have resistance to fire.
Oh, crazy. That'd be good.
And whenever I rolled damage, if the damage fell on 1, it would automatically become a 2
Oh, that's cool.
damage. I almost took that one. I've been eyeing it since I made this character. Enough.
Yeah, because there's plenty of stuff out there with resistances, although there's plenty of stuff with vulnerabilities too. So fire's already a pretty good damage type.
Yeah, and I was 1 off in my dexterity and my charisma from going up the next knot. So I was a 15 dexterity. I needed a 16 for the +3, and I was at a 17 charisma, the +4. So I was like, I think it'd be more worth it to just go up that one.
Yeah, and that's your spellcasting ability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, awesome. So Nardu's training montage is complete. She is now 4th level. It is a couple of days after you've gotten back, and you head down to Wilkins to kind of find out what's going on, to find the group. And he brings you into his office, and he mentions to you that it's good to see you again, Nardu. It seems though your compatriots were excited to get back into the southern portal, that they decided that they weren't going to wait. So they already had headed in, and they thought they would be just a few days. I expect them back probably in the next day or so. But while we had talked, one of the things that we realized is that we need to check on the first portal once again. It's been several days since anybody has went and checked on that portal, and what I was hoping is that if you could take maybe just a quick trip to the first portal you guys went to, although we haven't really named these portals, taking the group with you. So taking Sin and Caliban and where are my characters? Samir. If you would go and check the entrance of the portal, the first portal you found, make sure it's still, nothing's there, nothing's found it, nothing's wandered in. And also, if you feel that it's not in danger, you feel like when you get there, it seems safe enough, I think it would benefit us if we made contact with the woodsman that you had talked about again, to see if you could get some information about the area. And he kind of sits you down and he brings in refreshments there as he's talking to you. He says, it's my hope that if we could acquire some of that land that's right there where that portal is, that we could then fortify it by building a structure around it that we could control, guard, and that way it's not just, the portal sitting out in the middle of the forest as you guys described it, where anything could just stumble in if they didn't know it was there or not. I realize that although it's invisible, and that probably has made it why almost nothing has already stumbled into it, I'm still worried that if we're moving in and out of it, it won't be long before something does. So, but we need to know before we just go there and build, a wall around it or a keep around it or a fortified mansion or, whatever it ends up being that we put there. We kind of need to know more about the area. Like, is it a kingdom? Does somebody own that land? Is it a noble's land? Is it a state preserve? Is it no man's land? Any of that type of information that we could get. So I'm hoping that within, just a day's travel or so, you could find that woodsman, get that type of information, find out if that land could be either purchased or if we can have it or take it, whatever we might do, and then report back. I'm sure by the time you're back that your friends would have returned from the second portal.
Did Estella go with the other group?
Estella did go with the other group. Yeah, she was concerned that they didn't have your firepower, and he kind of winks at you a little bit when he says fire, with them, and she wanted to be there for translation. And he says, "Oh, that reminds me," and there's a box on his desk, and he opens it up, and inside it is a ring. It's like a gold ring, and he hands it over to you, and he said, "I had this created to help facilitate. Basically, this ring has the ability once per day to cast the spell Comprehend Languages. So you'll be able to use this ring once you're there to go ahead and speak with the woodsman once again. Assuming you can find him.
It's 4 hours, right?
Great question. Let's look that up.
Been a little bit since I've seen it.
Further duration, 1 hour. But it can be cast as a ritual. It is a wizard spell. It's a level 1. Oh, that's the other thing, is that Samir has also studied for the last month and has acquired this spell on his own, so that he will be able to cast it as a ritual, which means if he spends 10 minutes, he can cast it as many times as he wishes.
Okay, sweet. So I should use this once. It's once per long rest, right? Once per day. Once per day.
Yeah. Once per long rest is probably accurate.
All right, sweet. All right, so yeah, I'll take the kids and we'll go on a field trip.
Yeah, and it's a self cast, which is the only thing that means that, normally you would probably use Samir's ability to do it because he could just cast it on himself, but then you have the ability, if you need to be the one talking to them, you can turn the ring on.
For sure. If we need to use my strengths.
Yeah. Charisma, right?
Charisma.
All right.
So I'll take the kitties.
Yeah, so he says, I'll send a message to Sin, Samir, and Caliban, and I'll have them sent for you if you want to go ahead and wait down by the black door. I will get them, and they should be here within the next 30 minutes or so.
Right. And I shake the old man's hand, and I say, all right, good speaking with you, old man, and I'll head down to the dungeon downstairs.
Yeah, so when you get down there, everything looks pretty much the same. They still have the desks are set up, and the students are there scrawling and still deciphering the texts. They have it set up right outside the black door. The black door is guarded at the moment by 2 guards that are the same type of guards that you see in the city. So they're wearing the same kind of get up and garb and cloak of the city guard down there. And then within just a few minutes, you see Sin come. Actually, you hear her before you see her. You hear all the clanging of the chainmail and the boisterous step as she comes down the stairs into the hallway. And she's the first one there, big beaming smile on her face as she comes crashing down, armor clinking and clanging. And then behind her is Samir and Caliban with her.
As she rounds the corner to see me, or when I finally see her, I'm like, wow. Not the quiet type, are you?
Yeah, and she has a big smile, and she says, "Well, from what I hear, you haven't been the quiet type the last 5 days. Every inn has heard you, everywhere you go." And she comes and gives you a big clap on the back.
They better have. Gave them the best performance they'll ever see in their lives.
Yeah, she says, definitely the talk of the town. And then Samir comes and gives you a respectful nod and comes to shake your hand and says, well met. Actually, he probably calls you like Ms. Bigi. Is that it? B-I-G-I. Bigi?
BG, yeah.
Yeah, Bigi. Ms. Bigi. And then Caliban comes and just kind of gives a grunt and like a respectful nod, but you just always realize that he's just the quiet type. He's a man of very few words.
So, just as a refresher, I know all their names, but the first one that came down, she's the fighter, right?
That's correct. Yep.
The quiet wood
Is the druid. So Caliban is the druid. Yep. Let's see. Did I give you?
and Miss Vigi is the I don't know, what is he? Is he a wizard?
Samir is a wizard. Yep.
I have my notes in front of me, so this is all from memory. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't I have their character sheets? That's weird.
I know it starts with an S. Saline. No.
Samir.
Selena.
Estella.
Estella's the
Estella
other
was
one,
the
one
warlock.
who's here.
Yeah, Stella was the
Fighter
warlock.
here.
A Sin Ishmani. But everybody just calls her Sin. S-I-N.
Sin. There we go. I was close. You know, Saline Sin. It doesn't like a little bit of a nickname. So I'm like, all right. So are we ready to head in?
Everybody gives you a nod, and Sin definitely looks eager and can't wait to go, full of confidence. Samir looks like a little trepidation. This is the first time he's been back since the ordeal where they were captured. If anybody remembers that, this was the group that was captured in the tomb and then almost left for dead had the second group not come through and save them. And Caliban seems to be a pretty confident look on his face too. The only one that seems a little kind of you're getting a little bit of edginess to him is Samir.
Has a little bit of. He was the one who was really just broody when I was talking to them in the bar, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and you kind of won him over by the end of that conversation. Yeah, but he started out kind of a little mix of jealousy, a little mix of irritation, a little mix of guilt. You know, seeing how strong and confident and all these stories you were saying, and you know, his mind always flashes back to his failure kind of thing, and then so all hearing other people doing great stories was kind of he still was working through that the last time you had met him. But by the end of that conversation, you kind of won him over, and he a lot of that kind of emotion had calmed down in him.
Before we head through, I'm like, all right. Into foreign land. I'm sure some of you have done so before. However, weird rat men, and they're not very friendly. So I would advise, to be caught out by them. And there's also the other weird, sort of look like Talgrim, if you remember Talgrim, a little bit tall, a little bit brown, a little bit really horny. Haha. And I wink over to who's still warming up to me. Sort of look like him, a little bit smaller, much more angry. So again, steer clear of them, especially the horns. Don't worry, we're gonna be fine. No one, go by themselves. Use the buddy system. All right, everyone have their water. Everyone have something to drink. Everyone have some rations. For their sword, looking at you, Sin.
Yeah, everybody's giving you the nod, and Sin is definitely, yep, you're the boss.
Right.
And like under her breath, she's like, I hope we find some more ratmen. My sword could use some more action.
So it's gonna be me and not Sailing. God, what is his name? Why do they all start with S? It's Caliban. Caliban is the He's the one with the comprehend languages, right?
Yeah, let me how can I make it easy on you? Maybe just put it in chat.
Whenever I forget.
So here you go, Caliban Druid.
It's especially difficult because I'm already awful with names. It's made a lot easier by looking at somebody's face. So by not having to see anybody's faces,
Yeah.
there are people that exist in this imaginary world.
I forget them too, but I just happen to have them over on my second screen. I have my NPCs listed, so I can always look over and because I forget like Wilkins' name all the time. I forget. Yeah.
All right. So, if everyone feels good,
yeah, you get nods all around, and we're ready to go through.
All right, I'll walk in first, and you guys order yourselves how you best. Caliban, be a little bit closer to me, but not too far away from Sin. All right. And I go through backwards as I walk through.
Okay, yeah. So you go through the portal and you materialize on the other side. You get the same sensation that you've had thus far going through the portals. As you come through, you can see you come out the portal, and actually in the room you see 6 guards that are standing guard. And when you come through, you kind of look over. You kind of turn your head to look at each of them, and they're definitely facing down towards where the false tomb is, and they seem to be on guard. They seem to be alert, and they give you a nod as you come through, and you can tell that it seems like they've probably been here for a while, so it looks like they've been keeping up a guard since the last time you were here.
All right. I say, hey guys, I see you're working hard or hardly working, am I right?
Yeah, there's like a couple of chuckles, and he kind of looks, and he says, "It's been all quiet here. It's easy pay."
That's what I like to hear.
And they kind of give you a nod, and they're like, "It's been a couple days since we saw the other group go through. Are you heading out after them?"
Nope. Today I'm taking the kids on a field trip over to the other portal. See if everything's going fine. No crazy beings coming through, and some work from Wilkins.
Yeah, they all give each other the look at each other when you say crazy beings coming through, and they grip their weapons a little tighter, and they're like, "Well, we'll hold the portal for sure. Good luck on your travels." And as that's happening, you hear the hum of the portal, and then the next one through would be Caliban, and then Samir comes through, and then bringing up the rear is Sin at the coming through the portal.
All right, cool. It was nice talking to you guys, protecting the portal, and maybe I'll see you guys at some of the inns around the city. I walk away.
Yeah, and you're heading out, and you notice Sin is giving some kind of joking around and jibes with some of the guard there. You could tell that she's probably friends with a couple of them. She knows a few of them, and they're giving taunts and teasing each other as they go. And then she follows you down to where the tomb is in the area. So we can go to that, although don't be too concerned about tokens for this. I guess I can just move us over. We're just going to go through the tomb really quick, but I'll show anybody that'll be watching this system again.
Cool.
There we go. Actually, yeah, we can just put you on there, move you over so you can see it. There we go. So we're back in the tomb again. So they follow you along. And then everything seems normal. The torches are still lit. Nothing else in the room seems changed. When you go over to the tomb area, you're able to click on the mechanism that makes it slide. You see the stairs down. Everything looks the same as you go down the stairs. You get to the door. The door has been closed, but it doesn't look damaged or anything any different. You're able to go through that door, and then we'll kind of run you down through here, all the way back down to this little crevice that everybody's able to jump over easily without even having to make a check. You're not hearing anything. You're not seeing anything. Everything seems to be as it was the last time you were here. I don't know if there's anything else you want to check about, or if you just want to keep continuing on.
Nope, just trying to take the most direct path there.
Yeah. So you kind of cruise around and you get through the what you guys considered was the throne room, then the door that led out down the passageway here over the rocks, with the water that seems to come from nowhere and then again leaves from nowhere, all the way down to this portal, which you hadn't seen in a while. And as you get, maybe I'll let you get to here. Everybody's cautious at that point. When you know you're getting close to the portal, you recognize the hallway, and everybody kind of slows down a moment and kind of gives you the look of, all right, what should be our marching order now that we're getting kind of close to the actual danger.
Well, I can dodge and weave like a masterful dancer, like the masterful dancer I am. I boulder coming at me if you told me about it. So whoever is best at catching the rock being thrown at them from the middle of nowhere, they should probably be near the front to see if they hear or see any weird sounds.
Yeah. Sin pulls her sword out and takes the shield off her back and sets it, and she kind of moves to the forward position. And then actually you do notice that when she's being cautious, although not silent, she's definitely a lot more quiet than, when she's just bounding around. So she has the ability to be quieter, but not necessarily silent. The rest of you are quite, don't make too much noise, because Samir wears robes. The druid wears leathers, but they are formed and fashioned and well maintained to the point that they don't make noise when he's walking. It's kind of an eerie thing that he's probably the quietest one among you. And he mentions that he will guard the rear, being that he can handle any, if the fight turns to hand, he can handle that. If it's a ranged fight, he can handle that, and he would probably be best towards the back, leaving you and Samir in the center area.
Cool. So I tell Samir to take up the rear with Caliban, and I'll be right behind Sin.
Okay. So you see, so Sin kind of sneaks up to those columns that you can see there. She gets up to the corner and she listens, and then she kind of gives you a look of, and she whispers just enough that you can hear her, that she doesn't hear anything, and then you see her peek around the corner just slightly, and then she comes back and she gives you the head shake of, I don't see anything, everything looks okay. And then you see her walk around the corner. And now you guys are at this entrance of the portal. The flames are still burning. The portal still appears to be the same. Nothing seems to be changed. Nothing seems to have come through at this point.
All right. Well, everything looks good on this side. Everyone feeling good? Everyone okay?
Yep, nods from everybody.
Let's head on through.
All right. So you guys head through the portal, and that brings you back to the forest. What map should we put you on? Don't really need. Let me get rid of these guys. I don't think we need any of this stuff. We'll just leave Nardu there. There you go. All right, forgot to update that map. There we go. All right, so you come through the portal. You see ahead of you is Sin is already there in a crouched position ahead of you. And then the portal hums once again. And after you come through, then behind you, you see Samir comes through a little disoriented, and then kind of comes up next to you, shoulder to shoulder. And then the last humming of the portal, and then you see Caliban come through finally. And you guys are probably standing like right about here when you... all right. So you guys are here, kind of crouched close together. There's trees and bushes all through here. It is a forested area. It's a dark forest. It's kind of a brooding forest, even though it is daylight here. You can tell it's daylight, but it's a very shadowy type forest. And it feels like old trees, old growth. These trees are big and have been here for many years. This is definitely one of those older type areas that you've seen.
Well, so I don't remember what we did last time to not get lost going through this forest. So I look over at Caliban and I'm like, so Caliban, you're one with the trees and the plants and the earth and stuff, right?
Yeah, and he nods to you. Yep.
You make us an innocuous probably not in my vocabulary, make us a subtle path from here to where we're going, sort of like breadcrumbs so we don't get lost on the way back.
He says, yeah, what we can do is we can notch trees, or we can set twigs and branches a certain way that it'll be easy for you to find your way back if you need to. But once I've walked the route, I'm always able to retrace my steps. I will never get lost of a route that I've already walked.
Oh, nice. So I say, wow, cool. So yeah, just make sure that they're sparse, because we don't want anyone walking back this way. Or at least that's what one of the other guys said. So
yeah. So he kind of leads all of you to the tree, like to one of the first trees, and maybe it's just like, somewhere out here. And he shows you that the way he makes this mark towards the base of the tree, it's not an eye line, and it would be hard to see unless you were a person looking for signs at the base of the tree. And so as you guys are kind of watching him do these, he does a few of them to show you. You realize that, yeah, if you weren't really looking for it, you wouldn't just stumble on these marks.
Cool, Caliban. So we want to look. So we're all clear on the mission here, right?
Yeah. So
caught you guys up.
Well, and let's go ahead and you can go ahead and do a perception check too, real quick.
Oh, good. I'm great at those. That sarcasm, I'm awful at those.
Oh yeah, good.
At those.
Okay, so you even can see right now the area that you guys had kind of fought in. So you can see where the trampled brush is. You can still see marks of blood on the ground, where bodies used to be, but there are no bodies anywhere here.
Oh, so they took the bodies back.
Well, and then and so Caliban you see him kind of crouch near where you're looking, and he's like, this must be where you battled. Sin had mentioned, had told the stories. We thought maybe she was exaggerating a little bit, but as he's looking, and you can see him walk from spot to spot to spot, almost recreating where the battle had taken place, and he's like looking at marks, and it says, it looks like forest animals have drugged the bodies off. I would say a wolf pack had come through. Possibly I see some bear tracks here. It looks like the bodies must have been consumed by what I would think would be the regular denizens of this forest, because he's looking around and he's not seeing other tracks. Nothing that seems like humanoid or anything out of the ordinary. It appears to be that the forest animals have, taken this bounty of dead bodies that were left behind.
Oh, well, that's good news.
And you see a little confidence in his eyes, because he's like, it appears that the wolves seem to be the same toes, same size here as they are in our world. Are we sure this is a different world?
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll see. You'll see. Find that woodsman or his son. So that sounds creepy. So let's try and find the woodsman.
Yeah, so Caliban
Towards
keeps
the
looking around and he finds the tracks. He says, "It looks like you went west from here." Um,
and we just went straight in that direction.
yeah, and then he says, "And then I see some tracks. It also looks like you must have went north at some point from here. So you went two directions at some point."
Ah, yes. When we ran after the rat men, fun bit of cardio. Was
Yeah, yeah.
west.
Samir's nodding like, "Yeah, we chased," and she's kind of pointing to the north area. "We chased several that were trying to get away to that direction. So that was the way we went and then came back." She says, "But I'm sure the woodsman, we must have went west to go to the woodsman."
Yep. So I say let's head west and see if we on them or hear them.
Okay. Yeah, so Caliban kind of takes the lead a little bit on this one, and he's following the tracks. You can see that he's checking the ground. He's making the marks so that you guys will be able to make your way back if you don't have him. But it looks like it's a pretty much straight west move. It's you begin to head that way. You find where the woodsman had been cutting down trees. You can find the remains of some of the trees that he had cut down, some of the old growth that he was looking for. And you notice that Caliban kind of looks at some of those trees and he gives a nod of approval, and he says, "I can see why he would take these trees. This wood would be, prized for making weapons or furniture or different type of woodworks. A very hardwood that would be good for high-end type products." And then from there, even you and Sin can see the marks of the cart that he used to bring the big logs back. So the logs are pressing so hard down on the cart that it's a pretty easy trail to follow, even if you didn't have, the druid with you.
Cool. So he told us where he was. He lives in a cabin outside of the village, right? Or something along those lines.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he told you he was from the village of Amstelmar.
Yes.
So I'll write that in just so you have it, just in case.
Right. Of Amstelmar. He told the direction of it along that path.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it looks like the wagon's trail leads through the woods. It's not really a trail, so he must have had to kind of wind around a little ways, but he's definitely making his way west, and heading further west from where the portal is. And so,
Sweet.
just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys
Okay,
travel
let's
for
follow it.
probably about a half a day, and you start to see the trees kind of thinning a little bit, but then the next thing that kind of catches your attention is you hear voices kind of drifting from the west. It's like you're heading towards there, and they're quiet, but as you move that way, they're getting slightly louder. And what it sounds like is somebody's having either a conversation or somebody keeps yelling at somebody else, or you're hearing some voices up ahead to the west. Maybe, another 100 yards, 50 yards, something like that up ahead. You don't quite see it yet. You're hearing it more than seeing anything, but it looks like you're coming up to something that's going on.
I say, all right, Caliban, you're up, or Samir, you're up. Let's take so you can cast that sweet spell, and hopefully you'll be able to understand what this gibberish is.
Yeah. So Samir draws a circle on the ground, and then he places several symbols that he draws, and then he murmurs very quietly some incantations, and then quickly the spell completes, and then he's kind of listening up ahead, and he says, "I can hear a a man and a woman's voice up ahead.
All right. So I tell him, well, you're going to be our lead communicator here, lead translator. But if you get in a pickle or a difficult situation, get pop in, but I only have your spell for an hour before we're before that time limit goes out, and I have to wait another day. So if you need me for an emergency, this whole translation thing doesn't work, just say tutu hippopotamus. Code
Okay. Work that into the conversation. and he kind of looks, and Sin gives you a look. And should we move further forward so we can actually see them, or should we just try to stay here?
Let's see. Last time we did this, if you remember, they were really scared of us when they saw us, probably mostly because of Talgrim. But let's just try and seem as...
Yeah, you are all humans.
Disarming as possible.
So, yeah, this is actually probably going to be a better meeting than the other one was, because all of your non-humans are at the other portal.
Yeah. So seem as not dangerous as possible. Looking at you, Sin. And look pointedly at her pointy sword.
Yeah, she gives you the fake frown.
And we'll go in as a casual group adventurers and see what's up.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys kind of come out of the bush area, and what you see is that you've actually come up to a road that it's a dirt road that is running north to south. And on the road are 3 carts that have, it looks like donkeys are pulling the carts. They appear to be heading south, but there are a group of soldiers that have kind of blocked the way of the carts. And as they don't quite see you guys yet as you're standing there, and Samir says to you, you hear the man address the woman, and out in front, on the lead cart, is a woman that is wearing kind of like robes that you might think are maybe vestments or clerical in nature, or of a faith of some sort, or maybe like of a nun type thing. Definitely maybe not. They're only similar to what you've seen before, but they're not like any from your world. And she is in the lead cart, and she seems to be the one who is talking with the soldier. And the soldier there's a soldier that's up front who appears to be the leader, and then there's a group of 5 other soldiers that are just kind of standing a little bit away, but in the road, and then just letting the 2 have the conversation. And as you get up there, Samir kind of says to you that you hear the man speak, and Samir says, kind of translates it to you in a low voice, and it says, he's saying, it's out of the question. You'll have to take them elsewhere. And then you hear the woman speak in a language you're not understanding, and he kind of paraphrases it, and he says, well, she says, but my lord, they can go no further. They are very ill. And she seems to be gesturing to the wagon. And if you look, it appears to be like there are wounded in the wagon. So there's various states of wounding, whether they have bandages around broken arms or around their heads for like some type of concussive hit, or bandages around slash marks, or whatever. It seems like they've been wounded of some sort. And the man speaks to her again sternly and says, and Samir is kind of paraphrasing this for you. Precisely the point, sister. With the town so full and our hospitals overflowing, disease spreads like wildfire. We need no more fuel for the blaze, as he says to her. And then she kind of, you can see the look on her face. She's kind of near the point of tears at this point. Um, and she just kind of looks to him and she says, and again, Sabir translating for you, Sir Knight, will you truly turn away noble heroes of the Empire struck down in the fight from chaos? And then the soldier in front of her says, I have my orders, miss. And she says, kind of in a plaintive voice, could you not relax them for pity's sake? Our convent was not wealthy, but in the wake of its burning, I have been entrusted with its treasure. I know the lot of a soldier far from home is a hard one. And she kind of moves one of her skirts aside, and she's like pulling out like a silver kind of cask that's hidden underneath the seat. And you see the soldier holds up a hand, and his face gets kind of red as you guys see this. And what Samir translates to you is he says, in the light of your desperation, sister, I will forget this if you turn about now and leave here peacefully. And he says it in a very menacing tone. And that's the point where they see you come out of the woods. And the soldiers kind of are surprised and then turn, and weapons are on, or hands are on weapons. As you kind of have surprised them, and then everybody kind of turns to look to you guys as you come out of the wooded area.
I whisper to the guys to make sure their hands are not anywhere near their weapons. If need be, we can attack, but right now we're probably faster than them, so just keep off, seem casual. I look at Caliban and I say, you're up, buddy.
Yeah, Samir, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Samir.
So you hear Samir kind of talk in whatever seems to be this foreign language, and the main soldier who was talking to the nun who's on the cart there kind of puts his hand up and of the wait here a moment, and he kind of walks over to where Samir is and has this conversation. And Samir kind of over his shoulder to you, he says, he's asking where we're from and where we're headed.
I say, we're from we're from a foreign land and have a hard time speaking your language, but we're headed towards whose name I'm sure I remember.
Yeah,
To go visit
Amstamar. Yeah,
Amstamar. To go visit our woodsman friend, whose name I assume I also remember.
His name was Gunther. Yep.
That's right. To go visit Gunther the woodsman.
Okay. Yeah. So Samir starts talking to him again, and he looks kind of, he looks you up and down, and then kind of dismisses you. He definitely stares at Sin, who's in the armor. What's that?
I give them my most charming smile.
Yeah. And then he kind of pays attention to what Samir is saying, and they're both having a conversation, and at the end of it, he just kind of gives you the whole group of you. I would say more of like not a questioning look, but like a not trusting, but I'm gonna let you go for now kind of look. And then he kind of goes back towards where the wagons are, and Samir kind of takes a step back and in a low voice says, it seems like he thinks we're mercenaries from some other country, as we appear to be heading towards Amstamar. So he thinks maybe we're going to join up with one of the groups. Apparently there must be an army around here somewhere. They're a part of a troop there's some type of battle going on somewhere.
Probably this chaos war, these nuns, these sisters, these people, I'm assuming. I mean, I shouldn't judge by their wardrobe. I'm sure we look very odd to them also. But I mean, they're having trouble. But do we have passage?
Yeah, he apparently he thinks we're mercenaries of some sort, so he thinks we're here to join the fight, but we must be going to check in. And he said, head down to Amstamar and you'll be able to check in there, and they'll be able to catch up with your unit. He thinks we're with some unit that's here.
Not the worst thing I've ever been called. And they're still blocking the other. They're not letting them through.
Yeah, they're having a discussion, and it looks like the read you're getting from this guy is he's a very by the book rules lawyery kind of guy. So even though he's just following his orders, even if his orders are whether they make sense or not, or he was ordered to guard this road and he's guarding the road.
Like a good old fashioned lawful good.
Yeah.
All right, so I look over to Sin and Caliban here, and I say, "Gosh, I don't feel right. Ill back there, and they could totally be lying, like absolutely be lying. Feel right leaving them here. So this is the plan, guys. I want us to pretend like we're walking away, right? Like we're gonna head to Amstelmar, like no biggie. I pop off, the Mr. Meany over here and the convent sisters. Like I'm gonna go interfere, but obviously I can't speak. So Caliban runs after me, and you two. I'm looking at Sin, and I'm like, you two keep on walking for a little bit before you guys notice that we're gone, and then you make a big show of just like rolling your eyes and being like, not again. Very begrudgingly come after us. All right.
All right. Yeah. You get the nods from everybody.
I'm gonna try and finagle this. We're gonna try and make it so Mr. Meany over here softens up and lets these go.
Okay.
And again, remember, tutu hippopotamus if things go south.
Okay. Yeah, he gives you the nod. So yeah, you guys kind of go through this the show, and you get to the point where you're kind of approaching them, and the soldiers are kind of paying you no mind as far as the what you're not sure if he's a captain, a sergeant, or whatever, but in your mind you're thinking of some type of sergeant would be the word would probably come to mind. Is still speaking to the nun as you walk up, and he's kind of looking at you, and he kind of looks down the road, and then he sees your other compatriots coming up with they're rolling their eyes and they're holding their hands up, and you see Samir kind of come up and speak to him, and he's kind of saying in both languages so that you're understanding and he's understanding. He's saying to him, our sergeant just feels like it's not right to leave the wounded here on the road. Isn't there something that could be done? As he talks to the other sergeant, and he's kind of pointing to you like he's the translator, and he's saying this is and yeah, go ahead.
And at the same time, I'm saying in my language, do I know another language? I don't think I know another language. Do I know another language? Let's check. I know Primordial, but that's not a sexy language. I do know Elvish, and that is a sexy language. In Elvish, who knows if knows it, but I'm doing the whole, oh please, senor, like I'm trying to feed my family and blah blah blah. I'm trying to give him the biggest story in Elvish, though I know he doesn't understand me, but I'm trying to be
Yeah,
as
it's still body
empathetic.
language, it's facial expression, it's tone. Yeah. So give us a charisma roll. Let's see this performance.
Performance. Oh man, I hope I roll well. God, this is my second one. I want you,
Yeah,
and
that's okay. It's just all it is that's just lost in translation. So you're trying to get that across, and it's he's not really changing. It's not like he's angry or mad or whatever. He seems to be pretty stoic about the whole thing. It's just like, I'm just following the rules. I'm just following the rules. And Samir keeps talking to him, and he says it appears to be the sticking point is that as he's explaining, and you see him pointing to the north, you see him pointing to the south, and Samir's nodding. And he says, it seems what the problem is that there's a battle to the north, and the wagons are facing south, like they came from the north and are heading south. There's a battle in a town to the north between what they're calling whatever the Chaos Forces are. He says, I don't know what that is. And he says, between their army, which is, he says, is Count Jurgen's army. And refugees apparently have been streaming to the south from this battlefield area because apparently this Chaos Force attacked a town up to the north. So apparently the town we're going to, Amstelmar, to the south, is the next town in line, or the next village in line. And he's saying that the hospital there is already filled with soldiers, and he doesn't want to get chewed out if he keeps letting more refugees. And he says it seems like because these aren't soldiers of Sir Jurgen's army is the reason why he's blocking them. But and you're looking at this cart of people, and it looks probably like farmers and townsfolk and probably woodsy type people, whether they were, lumberjacks or woodsmen, or they were bakers, or they just appear to be, of farms or from that town up there. One or two of them do appear to be look like possibly could have been soldiers, but they're not wearing any of their armor or have any of their stuff. Nobody has any weapons. Nobody has, anything like that. And the nun is just really trying to appeal to his humanity, to say, we just need to get these people to a place. And the sergeant here, we'll give you his name. We'll say he finally introduced himself as his name here. Let me get back over. So you're talking to Sergeant Wallow Hedgewald. He's a sergeant in the Van Stolman's Pistols. I'll put his name in here for you.
That's a hefty name. I tell Samir, oh man, that's an even better looking name. Wallow Hedgewald. I tell Samir to tell this sergeant that, what's a few more people, and some of them even seem to be soldiers. Don't leave them out the elements. There are rat people and there are minotaur people out here, and you can't just leave them out here. They have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and you notice also Caliban kind of steps forward too and says, to Samir, mention to them that I'm a healer and that I'm willing to help bind the wounds and heal these people so that there's not a burden on whatever healers they have at this village we're going to. And so Samir kind of relates that to the sergeant. And when he says that, the sergeant kind of gives him a look of, okay, wait, that might work. And he kind of says, okay, that's the deal then. And you see a bright smile on the nun's face at this point, where he says he's willing to let us go through as long as our healer is the one to minister to them, and that we don't take them to the hospital area. Apparently they have a hospital set up down there. But if we're going to take care of them and we're going to provide for them and we're not going to take them to where the soldiers' hospital area is, then he's willing to let us go through.
All right, that sounds like a plan, and I give him my best charming smile. Hey, the fake tears, those crocodile tears.
All right, yeah, go one more performance check. You can have advantage on this one. Let's see how well it goes.
Performance.
Oh yeah, nailed it. All right, 21. right. Yeah, he's he kind of gives you a look, sergeant to sergeant, and kind of starts waving the wagons on, and then you guys are able to. The wagons are pretty full with wounded, and the other thing that you do notice about these wounded is this is like war zone wounded. So this is like these people are not well taken care of, so their wounds have festered. They've been wounded for a while. Whatever healing abilities that are around have not been used on these people. The only thing they have are bandages and poultices, and that's it. So you're not seeing, like the evidence of magical healing being done on these people. So they're pretty dirty. They're pretty grimy. They've obviously come out of some battle zone, war zone kind of area. Look malnourished and, look pretty. They're having a pretty bad time at this point as these wagons. And I assume you guys just kind of, are you going to walk ahead of them, on the side of them, behind them? What's your group going to do?
I tell Samir to ask them if they would mind if a few of us were back here with them. Like have Sin and Caliban up in front and me and Samir here in the back.
Yeah, they just the nun who seems to be in charge. She gives you a nod and just allows you. Their donkeys are pretty slow. Like you guys walk just as fast as them, anyways. And you guys are able to begin heading on south down the road.
Sweet.
All right, so yeah, you guys head south down the road and you come to our next little spot. Let's grab your token. Because I think that's the only way you'll see it. Like that. You're obviously not to scale at this point, but I'm just putting you there so it makes sense that you can kind of see what's going on. So you're able to see the map?
Yeah, that works.
All right, good. So yeah, you come in. Actually, you guys are coming in from the north, so let me put you up there. And you see quite a bustling village as you come in. One of the things you kind of notice is you see what looks to be like the soldiers have set up out in these fields next to the village. So obviously they're using this as a staging point. And you can see the big tent that obviously must be the hospital tent that they talked about, because you can see wounded being moved in there. You can even see as the flaps of the doors move and stuff, you can see cots that are laid out and you see wounded soldiers there. And then there's more tents for other soldiers that seem to be staying there. Horses are out a little bit further in a horse line. And then you're kind of seeing the village, which is a bustling village as you get to it. The colors of the map make it seem a little more cheerful than it is. I would think it's a little bit more muddy. It's a little bit darker grays. Everything looks a little worn down. This is more like Deadwood kind of town if you watch that show. Or if you watch Game of Thrones, it's probably more like the north than it is Casterly Rock or anything like that. It's kind of a rundown village. Lots of people moving in and out as you go. And you kind of roll into town, and there's people everywhere. It takes a couple hours to get down there. And so you kind of come up on town. So at this point, you see the nun is kind of looking for a place to park the wagons. Mm-hmm. And she just kind of pulls them off to the edge here first, and then goes to talk to Samir, and then Samir has to tell her to wait a moment, and he has to recast his spell once again, and he's able to talk to her again, and he says she's offering to give us money if we can find a building that we can use. And so you're looking around and you're looking at different buildings. So, things, even a barn or a building that's not being used. It seems like she has some money to to see if we can somehow get these wounded under a roof of some sort.
All right. So I ooh, this will be fun. So after he resets everything, I tell Caleb, no, it was this Caliban who, to stay here and start helping the wounded. It comes the worst, just play charades until they understand what you're saying. If they start asking you questions. And how Samir and I would like to accompany us, will head through the town and try and find a place for these guys to stay.
Okay. Yeah. And there's a couple of attendants that seem to be helping. They were the other wagon drivers of the three big carts that were hauling all these wounded, and they stay with Caliban also. And yeah, he begins to he's taking out healing herbs that he has too, and on some of maybe the worst, the most wounded, you might even see him using some of his prayer magic, some of his druidic magic, to help with their ease. But there's so many of them that it's clear that he's not just going to be able to heal them all and everything's great. So it's going to take some time because there's a ton of them. You probably, in these wagons and carts, there were probably 25 to 30 wounded.
Oh.
It was a lot of, and there was a lot of them. So they get set up over here in the field to wait to see what's going to happen as you guys kind of head into the village.
So the first person, like villagey person, we pass by. I go over to them with Samir, and Samir, and I tell them to ask him if there is a vacant plot where we could store some people.
Yeah. So Samir, you guys see what appears to be a merchant, and he's driving a cart of goods, and he kind of stops, and Samir speaks with him a moment, and he directs you to the center of town, to see if he says to check at the inn would probably be one place to take a look to see if there are any rooms. And he says sometimes the brothel has extra rooms also. He might not quite understand that you're looking for a place to put 30 people, but he does kind of mention that the village has been quite crowded with all of the soldiers that have been stationed here recently, so you'll probably have a hard time finding some rooms.
Mm-hmm. And he looks like a local, right?
Yes.
I also ask him if he knows where Gunther lives.
Yeah, he mentions that he kind of tells you which house he's in, and Gunther lives down in this first house down here in the kind of the southwest, and that's kind of his area where he does a lot of the woodworking that he does.
All right, and so I give him a charming smile and a nod of the head and thank you. And I keep on going, and I find another village person.
Okay.
In a more specific way, if they know there's a building in town where we could 30 people stay.
Yeah, so you talk to another person, and they mentioned that you definitely could try. The brothel has a stable behind it, but they're pretty sure that there's nobody staying in the stable, that it had been commandeered by a unit that had left a few days earlier to go north to the battle. So they had been using it as a place to store their horses, their gear, and the soldiers, but those soldiers went north a couple days ago. So it might be that that stable is open.
All right, sweet. So I once again, I even like enthusiastically like shake their hand and I nod my head and thanks, giving them a very charming smile.
Awesome. Yeah, and so this is the brothel here with the blue rooftop here, and then this is the stable they're talking about at the back.
Sweet. So I'm like, all right, let's head to the brothel, guys.
All right, yeah. So you come down here, and you're definitely in the main part of town. What you notice as you're going through the village here is that towards the outskirts are typically, thatched roof, wooden buildings, probably homes, some farms, some small garden areas. But then the center of town is more of what would be considered like the commercial area. So you see like the brothel, the tavern. You see the blacksmith, you see a Wainwright's building, you see a baker, there's like a general store kind of thing here. Those all seem to be the types of buildings that are in the center of town. And then so
Starbucks also.
Yeah, Starbucks. And so you get to this building, and from listening to Samir, who talks to a person that's kind of sitting on the stoop, this apparently is Lady Stella's boudoir. How's that word say? Boudoir?
How's it
I think
spelled?
that's right. Oh my God, it's some French word. I'd have to Google it. I'd just look it up. Boudoir, something like that.
Does it have an OIR at the end?
Yeah.
I believe that's
But everybody calls it, Lady Stella's is how everybody mostly refers to it. And as you go in, it definitely looks like it's kind of like a half bar. There's plenty of naked women around, half naked, full naked. There's naked men around that are obviously the workers here, and then there's a lot of soldiers are here. Mostly, you don't see too many like townsfolk. It seems like mostly they're doing a lot of business with the soldiers that are here, and you see kind of a overweight woman, but seems to be in charge, seems to be the motherly type, and welcomes you as you come in, and Caliban is definitely, or Samir is definitely a little red around the cheeks. Like, this is not a place he's used to being. Sin has a big old smile on her face. And Samir is talking to this lady, and he says, and he kind of introduces you and says, so this is Lady Stella, and she's basically telling me, the prices of everything, and that she can get us anything that we want. And he's kind of stammering a little bit because as a naked body goes by, he's definitely embarrassed.
I smirk at that, and I look over to him like, I'm definitely feeling a little bit overdressed in here. And I tell Caliban, I'm patting him on the back, ask her what the cost would be for us 30 people to be able to stay in the stables if the stables are empty.
Yeah, she has a puzzled look, and then she kind of has a little gleam in her eye, and he kind of looks to you and he says, I'm not sure what she means by this, but she says that we can have that building if we pay her 2 crown a night, whatever that is.
We can have that building if it's 2 crown per night. Tell her that we're looking for a space for a bunch of refugees. Better yet, tell her we're doing a favor for a nun convent from and they're trying to find a dry place to stay as they run from the war.
Yeah, and you see a look on her face. Go ahead and do an insight check.
Oh, I feel like I'm great at those also.
Yeah, not quite picking up on it. Okay, yeah, so she's like, yeah, she kind of, and Samir looks to you and says, well, she seems pretty firm on her price, but she's saying that whatever we want to do with it, she doesn't care. Don't ask, don't tell. As long as it's 2 crowns a night, we can do what we want in the barn.
2 crowns a night. Well, tell her that I'm a performer variety, and if that would help pay off price per night.
Yeah, so he tells her that, and you feel this gaze
Oh,
of calculation, like looking at meat in a market and gauging your worth in this establishment. And she kind of has a smile on her face of, you could probably make quite a bit of money here for me. But you're thinking it might not be the type of money you're thinking, like, or the type of work you're thinking versus the type of work she's suggesting.
Naru's done some stuff in her life, particularly mine. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't touch, won't kill.
Right. Samir also mentions that the nun did have a chest that apparently had money in it. Maybe she would know what a crown is, and maybe they would have some.
So I tell Samir that and to think about that offer as we walk out and with me.
Oh yeah, you get a big wink from Lady Stella as you tell her that you might be back.
All right, and so we'll head back out to the nuns and speak to them and what this crown means, and if
Yeah.
that's a reasonable price for them.
Yeah, she has a big beaming smile on her face when she learns that you guys have found the stable that they can bring the wounded to, and yeah, she opens this chest, and inside this chest there's a lot of coins. Apparently, when they evacuated the I want to say nunnery, but that's not the word for it. The abbey. When they evacuated the abbey, she took the donations that they had. It was a well kept abbey. It just happened to be that this battle almost overrun it. So she took the donations with her, and she's like, "We have plenty here that we can use to rent that barn out."
Also, Mary, ask her if she could show us from lowest to highest value what these coins are worth.
Yeah, she goes through and kind of shows you each one, so you can figure out that, as Samir's explaining it, that they have they have the same equivalent type. So they have a thing that's like a copper, they have a thing that's like a silver, they have a thing that's like a gold, a platinum, and all of that. It's just theirs are different shapes and maybe slightly different colors, but he's like, it looks like it roughly works out to be about the same as what we have. They just look different and they have different names for them.
So is a crown a gold?
A crown is 2 silver. Is each of the silvers a crown?
Oh, that's cheap. That's super cheap. Wow, that's a bargain.
Yeah, it's probably not. That's probably about the same price as a room, but again, this is just a barn, so it's not like it's a, there's no beds in there. It's
That's 30 people though. That's a bargain. Oh man. All right. So I yeah, and so that's that if they need us to show them where the barn is, we could show them. I do mention that it is a brothel. Uh, I mean, maybe it'll make some of the soldiers feel better. I mean, who knows? You know,
Yeah. So
medicine's
they
a crazy
bring
thing.
they drag the wagons in. The nun doesn't seem to be perturbed any. And she kind of has the cryptic, the gods work in mysterious ways kind of saying that she says. And then they take the refugees down to the barn area here, the stables, and they start offloading. And they've got the couple of the workers are cleaning certain areas out, and they're creating their. It's actually nicer than what they've been on. They've been on the road, and even though it's hay and stuff, it's better than what they've been. It'll be cold at night, but they'll find ways to get blankets and such, and it's better than having to sleep outside. So they go on that. And Caliban kind of mentions that he would like to stay and help them get the wounded settled in, if that's okay, while you go off and do whatever you feel like is the next thing you need to do.
I say, yeah, for sure, Caliban. Feel free to stay here. We're probably gonna head down. Is there anything you think you're gonna need that we should be on the lookout for?
And he's like, at this point, I'm not even sure. I think we'll just get him settled in, and then we'll have a better. I'll be able to look at all of them and have a better idea of what we should do.
So, yeah, as long as everything's paid for by, um, we'll head down to Gunther's.
Okay. Yeah. So you, Samir, and Sin had make your way down to Gunther's. And so you get down there, and you can hear some tool work happening inside. It sounds like either maybe sawing or sanding or something's going on inside the home there when you walk up to the door.
Uh, a very loud knock and see if I get any answer off of that.
A boy comes up to the running up to the door. You hear the pitter patter of a 12-year-old's feet as they come running to the door, and then you see the boy that you recognize, which was Aiden, which is Gunther's son, opens the door, and he sees you and Sin, and has a big smile on his face, and yells back over his shoulder to his dad. And then you see his dad come out. He's got like a woodworker's apron on, and he's cleaning his hands off as he comes to the front of the house area, and kind of greets you. And he's got a puzzled look on his face, but he's also happy to see you, but also surprised to see that you're here in the village, as he comes up to shake each of your hands and invite you into his home.
And I say, all I say is his name. I'm like, Gunther, and I shake his hand. I give the kid a hug. I scruff his face and I say, Aiden.
Yeah. Did you give him something the last time?
Oh.
Like, did you give him a dagger or something, or was that somebody else?
Oh, I probably wouldn't have given him a weapon. Maybe like a coin. One of our coins I might have given him.
Oh yeah, I don't remember. All right, but yeah, he definitely remembers you guys from saving him, from being pinned. And so he's kind of a pretty happy kid, and he brings you in and has you sit around his meager table, and offers you water, refreshment, and he puts like a piece of bread at the center, where it's like one of those, like, you just tear a piece off and have a piece of bread kind of thing. And then he's kind of talking to Samir, and Samir's looking to you, and he's like, he's happy that we're well, but he says he's definitely surprised that we're here in the village. He's wondering what he can do to help us.
I say, well, tell him that I'm glad to see he's well also. And we're here on business, and being he is the only person we know here, aside from now Lady Stella. We're looking to see who owns or what the land is of where we saw him. Like, what is that land? Does it belong to anybody?
Yeah. Oh, let me also give you did get introduced to the nun, and her name was Sister Saphinia.
Daphenia. All right. Sister and the lady, the only person we know. So
Yeah, just so you have that. So Sister Saphinia.
thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
so and he talks to Samir and he asks him, so that you must mean the land near where you came from, or where I cut down those trees. And he's like, nobody owns that land out there. It's just old forest, old growth. Very few go out there. In fact, I'm one of the few, maybe some of the hunters. But with the forests being as dangerous as they are, and that far away from in between the village or the town to the north of us, which he mentions is, so you guys are in Astomar, and he mentions that the town to the north is Dietenfeld.
So the city that's under attack, Eden.
Yeah, yep. He calls it a town.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the word town, and he uses the word village when he talks about Amstamar. So you're getting some type of, you're thinking that that must be a size difference of somehow.
Okay.
It makes it sound like Dietenfeld is definitely a bigger place than in Amstelmar, but you're not sure how much bigger or what.
So tell him that where we're from, pretty much if no one owns the land, you could claim the land and build on that land. No biggie. Tell him is it okay if, uh someone claims that land, and like, is there anything true to claim that land and own that land and build on that land?
Yeah, he doesn't think anybody would even care or notice that area to the west, as you start now, if you had started going more east, then the land is split up into counties and duchies and baronies and things like that, and the land is held by the emperor type thing. But out towards the west, as you continue to go west, there's the forest that you're talking about then moves into the mountains, which is mostly controlled by dwarves and goblins and such, that the emperor wouldn't claim those lands. That he doesn't think anybody owns that land. And just like he goes out there and cuts trees down, and nobody hassles him for taking resources from that area, that it's just kind of an unclaimed, it's kind of like a little bit of a no man's land between the civilization of what he calls the empire, and then getting into where the dwarven kingdoms are up in the mountains, the dwarven and goblin kingdoms in the mountains.
Oh, cool. I asked Gunther once again, like, what his trade is. Like, what does he do? Is he a carpenter? Is he
Yeah, he's
a
he's kind of
constructor?
the town woodsman. So he typically will make replacement parts for either wagons, carts, or buildings. So he makes planks, and he makes doors. He makes cabinet type stuff. He doesn't do really a lot of furniture type things or carving or anything like that, or weapons. He typically does more stuff like, most of his work is like fixing and repairing of carts and such that come through.
All right, cool. So I say that some of our, I guess, hates what the old man would be, old man Vulcans, are thinking of building around there. Make sure to put in your name if they're ever looking for any woodsmany stuff. So if you see people with weird asking for you, it's probably people from where we come from.
Yeah, and he gives a nod.
All right, that's all Vulcans wanted.
Yeah.
I say, thank you very much, Gunther. It's good to see. I tell Samir to tell him this. It's very good to see you here. To Aiden. And I say goodbye in their language.
Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, and he says that, while you guys are in town, if you need his help, just let him know. And then he kind of goes back to the work that he was doing. And looks like he's maybe shaving planks down to be all of the same size and the same thickness and such for whatever order he has. And Aiden continues to sweep the floor with a broom of all the wood shavings and such.
All right. So I say, sweet. Well, job well done, troops. Good job.
Yeah. So it's getting to be near dusk as you guys are heading back, not quite, and you see the nun on one of the wagons kind of coming out, and in the back of the wagon appear to be two wounded. And as you look, go ahead and do a perception check.
Oh, I'm great at these also. Cannot wait. The one without the check on it.
Yeah. So you definitely think these were probably they seem like they might have been soldiers that were wounded. And it looks like she's driving this wagon and she's heading over towards the soldier camp where the soldiers have set up their hospital and their barracks area. But it's clear that the refugees and the people that look more like farmers and townsfolk must be still back in the barn, because these two look like they must have been soldiers.
All right, and she's heading towards the soldiers.
Yeah, she's kind of heading in this direction.
All right, sweet.
And you can tell that the brothel is starting to get kind of rowdy. A lot more people have shown up. It seems like it does more business towards the evening hours as you are heading back into town here, wherever you're going to go next.
Let's see. Well, you said it's becoming dark, correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's head towards the back, towards the barn, and see how Samir is doing.
All right, or Caliban, yep.
Caliban
doing. The druid. All right, so yeah, you get back there and you can see that they've offloaded all of the refugees into the barn. They've started up some. They found some barrels that they put timber and hay in and seem to be burning to add warmth to the place. It is kind of a ramshackle stable, not very well up kept, but definitely providing lots of room and lots of space for the different refugees that are here. When you get over to Caliban, you can see that he's been ministering, and he looks like his forehead's really sweaty, like he's a lot of exertion, and he seems like maybe he's overdone it a little bit. Maybe he's you kind of recognize the look of somebody who's maybe trying to do a little too much.
All right. So I go over to him and I'm like, hey. Let's take a breather. Let's take a 5-minute breather, yeah? And I start to pull him away. He's doing to whomever he's doing it to.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and do an insight check.
Oh, I'm wonderful at these. Extremely observant person.
Yeah, look at all these numbers. 7, 9, 7, 7, 5. One of these days you'll get one. Yeah, so he just kind of follows you. He wipes the sweat from his brow, and he just he definitely seems tired. He seems like he's been exerting himself. He must have really kind of been throwing himself into helping these people out. And he's kind of saying to you, listening to you, but also kind of just saying, these people have just had it so hard for so long. I can't believe it. It's hard for me not to just try to help them every way I can. And he says it, as he's out of breath a little bit, and clearly has used up his healing abilities and is still trying to eke out as much power as he can to help these people.
I say, man, you can only help people if you're okay yourself. It looks to me like you're a bit tapped out there. How about this? You know, he's a druid, right? Let's, go in. Let's go to the brothel. They've survived this long. They'll survive a few more hours. Let's go into the brothel. Let's get some rooms, clean up, maybe have a drink, eat something, and go to bed. And then in the morning, you can help them again. Okay?
He kind of gives you the he's like, I really think they need my help, and I really think I should stay, but I hear what you're saying. I'll stop trying to do too much. I'll just make poultices here, and I'll definitely make sure I take a rest and get a warm meal, but I really think I should stay with him because there's a lot of these people were near the brink of death. I mean, had they been out another day in the weather, they might not have made it. I think we found them just in time.
And do you think they're not going to make it for another, say, 8 hours?
He says some of them, they're touch and go. We might lose some even tonight.
Okay, so how about this? We go inside, you have a drink, get a good meal in you, get those calories in. Then you come back out, you spend the night trying to get some rest. One of the attendees, I'm sure, will wake you up if something starts going south, and then you can start helping them.
Yeah, he seems like he would do that.
All right, so I put my arm around his shoulders, and I'm like, all right, let's head on in to the brothel. Let's get some rooms. Let's get some food. All right, because, mission accomplished. Now let's enjoy ourselves in this foreign land.
Yeah, so as you go in and Samir talks to Lady Stella, it appears that they only have 2 rooms left, but you're welcome to have them, and each of the rooms is 2 crowns a night.
Did we get paid? Did the nun give us our money?
The nun paid Stella, Lady Stella, for the barn.
Oh, that bitch. You know what? It's fine. I could just perform here. That's my thing. Free money. That's
all right. Yeah. So you work out a deal with Stella that you're going to do some performance, and she kind of looks at you skeptically because you're saying, I'll perform, and if I do that, will you give us the 2 rooms? And she gives you the look. She gives Samir the look, and Samir's like, well. She's tentatively saying yes, but I'm getting the impression that the performance needs to be pretty good.
on dice roller, Lady Stella. But all right, sure. Bring some of my minor illusion into it. My new tricks. Learned on this bar crawl to make sure Silvery Moon knows my name, and bring it all to tonight's performance.
All right, yeah, let's do a performance check for the evening.
I cannot wait until this is a natural one. Good one tonight. Performance.
Nailed it. Look at that.
Oh.
Nicely done. So yeah, you can describe this performance that you put on.
So, I find a little, a performance spot, a little sage not being used. I start off, and I have castanets. That's my thing. That's my instrument that I use in my performance. And I pop them out of seemingly nowhere. Who knows where I store them, but they're there in my hands now, and they're being used. And I tell the boys and Sin, like, you might want to sit down for this one. And I stand up and I go up there and I start, like, really slowly, with the castanets, just, attention and the appeal of the crowd. And knowing where I am and knowing the audience, I give them like a give them like a, I have this huge fur jacket on. That's sort of my thing. And I slowly start rolling it off and I give them a little bit of like a striptease type of like remove any of my clothes, just the fur. But that's good enough. And I start dancing and then, using these castanets and using the castanets, do my old trick of, setting them a flame. So I'm playing with fire, literally making these noises, crackling noises. And I make sure that I use this minor illusion to now create like a banner of fire over me in like in a ribbony fashion. And then, as a castanet music and the tapping and all of that gets louder, it starts strobing in different colors. And I'm just whole thing. I go into the audience and I dance around them and I smile. I'm extremely charming. Again, these strobing lights still going, and then the climax hits. I make sure to land on somebody's lap and do the whole footloose thing, and then on the chair, come back up, go around, and then as I'm finishing the routine, I go and I head back up to the stage, and I'm just twirling around. Maybe I do a flip. Who knows?
For the
And
24, sure.
yeah, and the lights start, not they start going slower and slower, just pulsing until they dim out. And as I finish my routine, I finish with that like really classic castanet, like Carmen's
Yeah.
dance where the final clack clack.
Awesome. So yeah, so everybody's quite impressed. You see a lot of people staring, and there's even like a moment where you stop and it's like silence. And then Sin and Samir start clapping loudly, and everybody joins in because it was like they just didn't even know what they had just seen. Like they'd never seen anything like that before. And you get a nod from Stella as a you did good. You've earned your rooms. That was well done. And then as you go back towards Samir, he says, "It's weird that while you were," he kind of whispers to you while you were doing that, everybody kept saying, "She's a bright wizard," whatever that is.
A bright wizard. Ooh. I sort of I'll take it. I'll say it gets lost in transition. Sorcerer, and it's up to me, or says anything to me. I make sure to tell Samir, or I make sure to say my name. Nardu BG. Nardu BG. Oh yeah.
All right.
Don't
So how
forget,
long
like, sort
how
of
long
don't
at the
forget the
night do
name.
you guys before you go to your rooms and crash out?
Let's see. I'll stay up as long as Sin will. I assume Caliban will. No, Samir will go pretty early.
Yeah. He
As long as it
definitely
does.
once it's the rooms are secured, he's definitely heading there immediately.
So I say as long as Sin will.
Yeah.
Say
So it's a
well.
weird kind of thing because you're in a room of a brothel, a tavern, a boisterous, places that you may have seen before or been to before. But what's odd about it is that everybody's talking in such a way that you don't understand them. So it's this surreal scene of you kind of being in a foreign land, hearing foreign languages that you don't understand, but everything is still kind of merriment around, and people aren't, some people kind of laugh and say little phrases to you, raise their cups to you kind of thing, and you get the impression they're congratulating you or saying good job, but you have no idea what they're really saying type thing. And it's just this kind of odd thing to not know what's being said all around you this whole night, but still feeling like you're in a pretty cheerful, boisterous, if not a little slimy, a little, definitely shadier part of a business than say a regular tavern.
I'll send the tricks of where to hide her money, even though we don't have any money to use here. I show her the tricks of make sure you put it here
Yeah.
or there. It's super easy for someone to cut it off and without you noticing and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and Sin definitely seems to get a lot of notice too, as you may get the impression that maybe there's not a lot of women warriors.
Oh.
So she definitely gets a lot of attention being in full gear, and it seems like everybody's just treating you like you must be mercenaries that came from another land, because they get hired quite often to come fight with different armies, and that's just how they just assume that's who you guys are.
So what you're saying is we have an easy source of money here.
Yeah. All right, so the evening wears on, and I would say probably about 4 a.m. is when you hear the first scream that wakes you up in your bed. Now you have 2 rooms and you have 4 people. Who was staying where?
I'd probably be staying with Sin, and Caliban and Samir would have the other one.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But okay, I wanted you to choose it. Okay. Yeah. So you kind of bolt awake as you hear a scream, and you see Sin also wake up and turn to you, and she starts putting her gear on. It's obvious that she heard it also.
I get ready by putting on my coat, because I didn't bring a change of clothes. I'm sleeping in what I came in. And I put on my coat. I ruffle out. I open the door. And I say, I'll see you downstairs. Go and knock on Caliban's door and see if he's...
Yeah. So the door opens and you see Samir is kind of rubbing his eyes, and he's got his robe on. And he's kind of tightening his belt as he comes out. Caliban's not in the room when you check, but you guys are in the hallway there, and then you hear another scream from outside.
I say, come on. And I say, I'll see you outside, Sin. We gotta go.
Yeah, you can hear her putting her stuff on, and she's like, I'm right behind you. And she's kind of hopping out, got her last boot on, pulling her sword, her shield. And you guys are tromping down the hallway down to the stairs that lead back down to the common room. And there's a lot of drunk people laying about. There's it looked like the place had mostly died down by then, even though there were those that had passed out from drinking too much. Very few people are moving at this point, although some have kind of sat up and woke up and they're looking around like they must have heard something too. And you're hearing it from out in the front area here. And as you come out the door, with Samir right behind you, and then you can hear Sin just now coming to the stairs, starting to go down the stairs. You come out and you see what appears to be like a townswoman who was carrying what looks like a bucket of water near this building, and there seems to be this disgusting-looking creature that you've never seen before, jumping at her and trying to claw her and bite her. And I'll give you a picture so you can kind of get an idea. They look a little bit like this. So down in handouts.
Oh, snap. No, yeah, it popped up on my screen.
Yeah.
The nerdlings.
So these little, they're maybe just 2 feet tall, 1.5 feet tall, 2 feet tall. They all look different. Each one will look a little different. They seem to be, I mean, the first thing that pops to your head is demonic in nature. With the horns and the teeth and the extra long tongues and the kind of the gore and slime that's on them. And you see one of these things trying to jump on this townsfolk. And then you begin to hear other screams. And as you look down the road again, you see a farmer down here being attacked by a couple of them. And then down this way, you see 4 or 5 of them running around, heading down to go into some of these buildings. Like they're jumping in a window here to go into a building. And it seems like there's just a bunch of these things just all of a sudden started attacking the people of this town.
So as we were going down the stairs and with Clanky Sin, I look at and I say, if you got mage armor, now's the time to use it. Seems like we're gonna be dealing with some sort of trouble. Better be prepared for anything.
Yeah. So
Oh,
you see him begin to cast, and he is definitely behind you. Um, he casts his mage armor, and his mage armor comes together like a translucent plate mail, and you hear it kind of clink into place, like it makes these little popping noises as it clinks into place, and then it shimmers out of sight again. But for just a moment, as he's casting it, you can see like he's creating these magical plate mail to go around him before it disappears. You can hear Sin coming down the stairs now.
and I make sure to that I also have my mage armor on it. This little nurgling I see, I shoot fireball bolt at it. Firebolt.
Yeah, go ahead. You there's up this way. There's a couple this way. There's
Just the nearest one that I see is trying to attack somebody who
okay.
screamed. It's the first one I saw, so I aim it towards him.
Yeah. So the firebolt kind of singes past him, and you see it kind of dodge out of the way, and you see the woman drop the bucket and race into this house here and slam the door shut, and then you see this little nurgling kind of turn to you, and begin to scamper towards you, and then what ends up happening is a second firebolt comes out from Samir and hits it, and it goes down. Like it's a pretty standard firebolt that he hits it with, and then it just bursts into it and it just kills it right there on the spot.
Oh, well, it looks like these things are going to be easy to kill.
Yeah, and Samir now
Then
is out next to
to
you,
go
kind of standing out
to
in the
stay
front.
in sight, but to go towards one of the larger groups. And I
Okay.
tell Samir to head to see if the refugees are okay, and if Caliban is in any state to be fighting. If anything, just leave him there to protect, and then come back down to town center and see if we can get it.
Okay. Yeah. So you see a little group of like four of them trying to break their way into this little cottage house here. Like they're trying to break the window, and then they're going to climb up into the window. And then down here, there's one that's attacking a farmer. But the farmer seems to kind of be beating him off with like a rake that he has in his hand. Um, and then you have Sin's kind of there with you, just waiting for you to say which way do you want me to go, and then she's ready to charge forward.
So I tell her to go to the group down here,
Okay. Okay.
and I'll fire off a firebolt towards this little nurgling.
All right. Fire away.
Firebolt. Oh,
Okay. Yeah. So
your attention.
you're able to make it flinch enough that the farmer's able to smack it with the rake and kind of knocks it to the side, and knocks him kind of he tumbles a little bit and then is knocked prone and dazed a little bit. Sin, you see, charges down into the group of them, and just you see sword and shield strike out. So she cuts one as she goes, and then she uses her shield to push one again away from the window, and it looks like she's fighting these four down here at the bottom here, and they are trying to. You can see their claws trying to scrape against Sin, but it looks like her chainmail is absorbing most of it, and you can see her shield gets a claw mark on it, but she's able to fend off most of the blows.
All right. So the one by the farmer dead.
No, but he's knocked prone.
All right. So I'll be at disadvantage. I mean, does it really matter? My first roll is always the lowest one, anyways.
Right.
So I'll throw another firebolt at him.
Yeah, actually, you hit. Yeah, so he's laying on the ground. He's a little fat, little demon guy, and your fireball takes him, and then it's. Go ahead and roll damage. Let's make sure it's not like a 1. No, yeah, you take him out. And he's just enveloped in fire, and whatever seems to be, they seem to have some type of pus or liquid or mucus or slime on them, which appears to be flammable because it immediately bursts into flames, and then just kind of turns to ash pretty quickly as you kill it. And the farmer gives you a wave, and he starts running back towards his house to go inside.
Do I see any more in that direction towards Gunther's?
Nope, you don't see any more in that direction. You hear more shouting and more screaming coming from this direction. Mm-hmm. So up in this direction. And you see the 4 that are here, and that's all you see at the moment.
Sin seemed like she can deal. I yell over to Sin. I'm like, Sin!
Yeah, as you look, she's already. It looks like she's cut one down. It's down to just 3 of them, and then you see her hit one with the shield as she looks over to you, and she gives you the nod of, "I've got this. They're no big deal."
I'm gonna head up north towards where the refugees, towards the soldiers are, towards the hospital. Once you're done here, meet me back up there.
Yep, she yells, "I'll catch up. Go, go, go!"
And so I get as far as I need to see any of these nurglings.
Yeah, and what you're seeing too is some soldiers are starting to come out of different areas. Like this was an inn and a tavern here, and some soldiers have put their armor on as they've heard the commotion, and they've come out of the building. A couple of soldiers have come out of the brothel and have started to come out. You see, what you didn't see as you were heading this way, some nurglings come out of this little alleyway here, but these 2 soldiers that come out of the brothel immediately kind of jump to and start attacking them, and those nurglings jump on them, and you can see them. You see one of the nurglings slash one of these soldiers' throats, and he goes down, but the other one's fighting and holding him off. And then you see there's apparently some big commotion happening up here.
So I throw a firebolt behind me towards the trying to hit one of those nurglings as I run forward.
Oh yeah, dead center. Good damage roll. Yeah, so you're able to, you basically burn its arm off, and it seems to have caught fire at this point, and the soldier then sticks, he has like a pike that he has, and he kind of just slams his pike down on this nurgling, and then he faces off to the one that's left.
All right, sweet. So here's hoping that he doesn't die. As I continue forward until I see what's happening.
Yeah, so you get up to here, and it appears like there's this mass of soldiers fighting this mass of nurglings. So it's just like a dozen soldiers probably fighting 24 nurglings in this tent area. And it's just like a big swirling melee of them.
All right, so hold on. What is the range on this guy? To hit this guy. Let's see. 20 feet. So I get into a position where I just see nurglings. Like at least 6 of them.
Okay, yeah. You can see, it seems like they're all fighting right out here in front of these tent area. And there's just a big mass, it's just like a big mass battle going on.
So I take 2 rounds. Wait, maybe Mantle of Fire is a bonus action, and maybe I could do this all in one action. So I use my firstly, I use my bonus action to turn on Mantle of Fire.
Okay.
Making sure I'm not near anything flammable.
Yep.
And I cast Scorching Ray. A sorcerer point, 2 sorcerer's points technically, to use Twin Spell.
Okay.
So instead of 3 rays that I can direct anywhere, it will be 6 rays that I will be Scorching Ray. So I am just gonna target 6 of them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that 21's a great shot. You don't even have to roll them all. That's good. Go ahead and just roll a couple damages.
All right.
To see where we're at damage-wise.
And do I get anything cool for fire damage equal to my charisma modifier? No, wait, no.
You do with
Fire
your
damage.
mantle, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it gets my fire, which is +4. So all of this will have a +4.
Yeah, that's gonna be enough to take each one of these out. So yeah, you burn down
Yeah.
6 of them immediately with this scorching ray. And go ahead and describe what the scorching ray looks like.
Scorching ray from me. So the mantle of fire is still forming around me as I take out my hand. It's palm up, and from my palm, you just see a bunch of light, just little balls of light come out, and then they just shoot up, sort of like fireworks pop. Instead of it being a firework pop, it's just a ray, and it just goes pew 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 in the direction of where I'm looking. These with my magical energy,
Nice.
and I just keep going, and it's just, I mean, it's 6 of them in 6 seconds, so
Yeah, yeah. You burn them down, and you turn that battle quick. With them down, and now all of a sudden the soldiers are fighting more on even terms, and these things are getting cut. And a few soldiers go down from unlucky shots, like somebody gets a claw raked across their face, and you see them fall over. But for the most part, the soldiers hack and cut the rest of these down as you walk up, and it just as quickly as it has started, is as quickly as it has ended. This little battle is done, and these soldiers are all kind of looking around, and they're looking at you with wide eyes, and like one of them kind of comes up to you and starts talking to you.
I immediately turn on the ring.
Yeah, and he's like, you didn't catch like the first part, but then as the ring powers on, he's like, he says something like, well, wherever you come from, that's the damnedest thing I've ever seen. I'm glad you were here tonight.
A very charming smile that, hopefully still looks charming, even though my eyes are glowing a different color and there's fire swirling around me. Um, and I almost seem to be floating. I like, well, I could uh I could help you out with these little demon beasts, whatever they are.
Yeah, and he kicks one and he calls these nurglings. He says, it's the damnedest thing. They poured out of the hospital tent like it was a wave of them. And you can just see all the dead ones now. And he kind of points up to this tent up here. Says where they kind of poured out from.
Oh, well, you know, um, secure the area, and I guess, have any of you checked it out?
And he kind of gives you a look. He's like, let's head up there now. They all, you can tell they're all half dressed. They've all seemed to have stumbled out of these tents. They're wearing partial bits of their armor, but they didn't have enough time to get all of it. And most of the other ones are still stabbing these little these nurglings on the ground. And then he kind of follows you up if you start to head up towards the tent.
Yeah, yeah. I tell one of the soldiers that if they see a woman uh, with a with a little bit of bloodlust running this way, point her to the hospital tent.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you get up to the tent, and you can tell that it's weird because the tent seems to be dark inside. It has canvas doors that seem to be flapping in the wind a little bit, but it seems pretty dark inside. But you're giving off plenty of light from your mantle as you come up, and you kind of push your way through this flap area here, and you can see that almost all of the wounded soldiers that were in here seem to have been have slash marks on them and gashes. And towards the back of the tent, you see these two kind of bloated corpses that almost, I mean, they must have been human at some point, but it looks like they're, you almost think of like a waterlogged human where they get a lot more puffy and a lot more bloated up. They're at the back, and it seems like the stomachs have burst open at the back of the tent. but nothing seems to be moving. Nothing seems to be alive in here.
I asked the soldier, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Yeah, as you're turning to talk to him, he's throwing up in the corner as he's looking. And I mean, it's a garish, ghastly scene of the wounded that were in here have all been killed by the slashing claws of the Nurglings, some types of corpse. And he's looking at it and he says, and he just uses a cuss word, and he uses the word chaos, but it comes out as a cuss word. It comes out as like a blasphemy, like a just kind of a declaration almost.
Do we have to quarantine anything? Do we need to destroy anything?
We should burn this whole thing down.
I call out and I'm like, is anybody here? Anybody alive?
No, yep, you're not hearing anything. A few more soldiers have come up from behind, and they're kind of standing in the doorway but not getting in your way. And but they're not also entering in, but you don't hear anybody say anything, and you don't see any bodies moving. You don't hear any groaning it looks like it's all just a carnage house inside here.
I tell the captain or the soldier to have everybody clear out. Anybody's in here, it's about to go up in flames.
Yep. You're not hearing anything. You're not seeing any movement.
And as I make sure to be the last one out, I touch the flaps of the hospital. A light.
Yeah. The whole canvas just lights up, and the bodies look like they were diseased. It looks like they had pock marks on them. It looked like they were in an advanced state of decay already. And then, your flame just starts as like a cleansing fire through this whole thing. And just within even probably 4 or 5 seconds, this whole thing is up in flames and is burning righteously.
And I turn back, making sure I'm in front of the flap. Probably not the best time for showmanship, but I mean, one only gets its chance once in the lifetime. I make sure I'm like centered in the middle, around with my mantle still going, about to go out, and I tell the soldiers, make sure to stay clear of this. Make sure there's a quarantine. The chaos forces we found way to the refugees. Make sure that any signs, but do not panic.
Yeah, and there's like a one of the soldiers comes up, and he looks like he's probably one of the medical people, or the doctors or the surgeons or whatever name they'll have for them here in this world. And he was one of the ones that looked into the tent just before you lit it up, and he was like, I knew something was wrong with those 2 bodies that got brought in earlier today. Something just wasn't right about them.
Son of a bitch. As soon as he says that, like, yeah, gotta go. Stay safe. And I run south towards the brothel. And if I see Sin or Samir, I keep running and I point towards the barn.
All right, so which route are you going to take? Show me with your either draw it or show me with your ruler. Which way
basically the way I came from. So
Oh, did I not give you your token? I probably should. Oh yeah, it's your token. You can move it.
Yeah. So I'm probably gonna.
Okay. Yeah. So you meet up with Sin. Sin meets up here with you and has a big smile on her face, and she's like, that took care of them. And then she kind of sees the look on your face, and she goes back into more serious mode and then follows you as you go.
Yeah, I don't even stop. I just keep going. And I just like I say over, chaos forces, barn, 2 bodies, gotta go, bad nun,
you can
bad,
hear her following
code red.
you.
I head towards first Ben, okay, and I run straight towards the.
Yeah, so you get to the barn, and what you see there is you see the nun,
barn.
and all of the refugees inside the building in the barn appear to be laid out in some type of ritual. You see a couple of corpses that are bloated and seem to be growing. The bloat of their stomachs are growing bigger as she's chanting in this ritual. And next to her, you see the forms of Caliban and Samir laid out as if they tried to maybe attack her, but they seem to be kind of just crumpled up onto the ground and not moving.
I say, "What have you done to them?" And I direct Sin inside, and
Yeah, and you see the kind of a fanatical light coming from the eyes of the nun, but she even though she sees you, she continues to chant these words, and it seems like these corpses in the center are still continuing to grow bigger.
what is around her? Like, is there anything around? Like, is she in the middle of all these corpses? Is she?
Yeah, they're arrayed around her as if they've been ritually set up in certain patterns, and the corpses have been arranged in geometric shapes and weird angles and spell out symbols on the floor.
All right. Well, I am going to. I tried the diplomatic route, and that didn't work. So I'm going to use Scorching Ray on her. This time, just normal. I'm gonna hit her with Scorching Ray, or try to hit her with Scorching Ray. Oh, that was not the right button, apparently. I hit.
Just bringing up her character sheet. Give me a second. Yeah. So you roll a 23. Yeah, go ahead and roll damage.
Right, for that one. I still have another 2 to go. Regular old 7.
Okay. Yep. Well, here's what you see. So the Scorching Ray streaks out and then hits some type of force bubble that's around her. And so the ray hits it and the flame strikes over it, and you can tell it's a spherical bubble that's around it. Then the second one hits it again. Go ahead and roll damage, even though it's a 7. There'd just be automatic hits. You can't miss this bubble. All right, so it'd just be the 6, and you got a third one?
Yes, I mean, I'll still do the next one.
Yeah, and then go ahead and roll damage. Yeah, and so what you see is it hits it. The first one hits it and illuminates it with the fire that kind of wreaths around it. The second one slams into it and does it again. And the third one hits it hard enough, and you see it kind of dissipate by the third one. And it looks like you've crashed through the spell by that third one. And you see her turn to you and snarl, and her visage changes from this woman who was dressed in what appeared to be like these nun robes or a habit. Let me give you another handout. Her form grotesquely changes. And you see... Oh, did I not? Let's see. Do you see this if I say show players?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And now she turns to you, and we're going to go ahead and roll initiative. So you should be able to hit your token, but let me bring up a tracker. Oh, you know what? Don't do that, because I don't want to mess up the tracker from the other night. Let's just do it manually. So maybe just do a manual roll in the chat and I'll write it down.
All right.
And I'll do a manual roll also.
Oh, come on. A 7.
Oh, she rolled a 1. So 1 plus, let's check her dex. Or wait.
6.
It's not Dex for, or is it for initiative?
No idea. My initiative didn't go up, I don't think.
All right, yeah. So 1. So you're still going to get to go first. Okay. Oh, and let me roll for Sin. She got 12. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
So Sin. Then you. Nardu, then her. All right, so you see Sin race forward and is going to use... She has some defensive abilities here that she took up because she took fighting style protection. Sin sets up next to you and is going to use protection, which is going to allow anything that tries to hit you disadvantage when they try to strike you. So she's going to try to stand in front of you and protect you. So that would let you go.
All right. So I am going to so everything around, there's bodies everywhere, all in front of her, correct?
Yeah, corpses all around.
I'm going to my inner Miyagi, and I'm gonna try out orb at a level 1. Card, or is that going to be the attack? It's going to be the attack. Because this is me. Son of a fuck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so chromatic orb. Okay, so go ahead and describe what it would look like. It's going to sail at her, but apparently she has a magical barrier that has turned the spell and made it bounce off of her before it does its damage. But you can go ahead and describe what your chromatic orb looks like.
So chromatic orb comes out of me in a very similar way as Scorching Ray does, but it's instead of palm being up, it's palm being out. And from my palm comes out sort of like a little bit Dragon Ball Z. The energy just comes out of my... I would have chosen fire because that's my thing. 4-inch diameter sphere of energy that just comes out. So it's a small little thing. And it's all a swirling pattern of red, oranges, and whites. And then formed, it sends out a ray towards the enemy, and then the rest of it goes towards it. So it's a ray, and then the ball just shoots towards that direction.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and she must have some type of magic ability that's turning and blocking some of your spells, but you're definitely hitting them, and these barriers seem to be disappearing and weakening as you're hitting them. So she races forward, and when she gets close to you, there's this just overwhelming stench that makes you nauseated. And you can see it's even affecting Sin. And she reaches out and tries to claw at you. It's going to be at disadvantage, as Sin is there to impose using her reaction. So this will be a claw at disadvantage. So she rolls a 6. Yeah, so it looks like she's about to claw at you, and you can tell these fingernails are grimy and dirty, and they're probably 6 inches long. They're almost like daggers in themselves. But Sin throws her shield out in front of you and makes sure that it scrapes across the shield, and you can even hear a little sizzle mark as it hits the shield, and is able to keep you from taking any damage. Sin will then strike out. She's within 5 feet, so Sin now needs to make a Constitution check So that would be a Constitution saving throw for Sin. 16. Yep, she makes it, so she's not affected. And so then she will go ahead and swing her sword. But she misses. She hits this thing, but it does not appear to bite into her toughened skin. It seems like there are no more barriers anymore, as it does impact her, but it doesn't seem to sink in to do any damage to her. And now it's your turn.
All right, so she is now in front of me.
She's within 5 feet, so the
And
first thing
are
you
their
need to
bodies-
do, you need to make a Constitution saving throw from the stench that is wafting off of her. DC 10. So yeah, 12, you made it. Perfect. You don't have to worry about it.
Go ahead. All right, so so she is right in front of me. Sin is next to me. Behind her, maybe like in a radius. That's like 10 feet behind her. Are there bodies behind her?
There's corpses.
Those 10
Back
feet.
behind you guys, behind near more of the door. You guys have just walked into the door. Is where Caliban and Samir are laid out. They're near the door. But where she was like inside of a circle of ritualized corpses. But then she ran to you guys. So she's kind of standing on the edge of the circle where you guys are fighting her.
So if I were to maneuver myself around her where I'm between her and the bodies and I'm facing the door, and I would probably hit Caliban and them in a 15-foot cube or in a 15-foot cone.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so I am instead.
Yeah, if you stay facing the way you are now, it would hit her and just corpses behind you and maybe the back of the barn wall. But you don't see anybody alive behind her. In fact, as you're looking around, you don't think there's anybody alive in here, although you've not checked Samir and Caliban.
Well, I'm a bubbling optimist, so I'm just gonna hope that they're alive. All of them. I'm going to use Shocking Grasp.
Nice.
So, is that the attack or?
Oh yeah. Yep, you latch on.
For a solid 2 damage. Is there anything cool that happens with Shocking Grasp?
Now, is your mantle still up, or?
No, that's only a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, that's only a minute. Melee spell attack, you have advantage. Wearing armor. On a hit, takes that. And it can't take reactions until the start of its next turn.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so you see the shocking energy course through her body, and it makes her go rigid, which slows her down a little bit. Also, from behind you, you hear several soldiers come in. They kind of rush in, and they see what you're fighting, and they, one of them just stands stock still, like he has no idea what he's seeing. The other one just kind of throws himself at this creature and is able to kind of put a wound on her using his pike. So there's another person who's come into the room and has kind of come up on your right-hand side and has hit it with its pike as he comes in.
So I jump back about 5 feet to give, no disadvantage on the range attack.
Yeah.
And that'll be my turn.
All right. So she's going to swipe at the soldier that just hit her with the pike. 14 is not enough. He is wearing the equivalent of chainmail, which is a 16, so it scrapes off of his armor. as he kind of staggers back. And apparently she has a lot of strength to her, but it doesn't quite get him. He needs to make a saving throw, though. 20. 13, he made it also, so he's good. He's not affected by the stench either. That puts us at the top of the round. So Sin strikes out with short sword once again, keeps herself in between it and you to make sure it can't get past her. Oh, but she misses on this round. That brings us to your turn.
All right, so now that there is space between us, I am going to use I mean, I probably should. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully we get to move these bodies if I need to clear out an AoE. Use now that I'm behind her. And disadvantage is just in melee range, right?
Right. Yeah.
Make a.
Yeah,
Right, so
you have regular. You're not at disadvantage at this point.
all right, so I'm going to, once my final move, use Scorching Ray. But this time I am gonna spend my last 2 sorcery points to make it a twin spell.
Okay.
About 6 rays.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah, you get to roll all these as normal now. So, and what you want to get is a 13 or higher.
4, 5, 6.
So anything 13 or higher hits, you can roll damage for those.
So that's 1. I didn't actually count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that was 6. Play, man. 10 out of 10.
Well, you got half, right? All right. So.
Yep. So that's 14 plus 8. 22.
22. Nice, solid hit. Which puts her at that. Ooh, that definitely hurt. Yeah, so she cries out, and she even says to you, and she screeches in this horrible, throaty voice, "How dare you attack Quasgal Wildplate? You will die this evening." And she tries to push her way through Sin and the soldier to get towards you, but she's not quite able to do it. So she kind of strikes out at Sin as she's trying to move through to get to you, but Sin is able to keep her in front of her, but she does make a swipe towards Sin. So we see a claw mark go out. Ooh, hit Sin. All right, let's see. It's going to be for 8 slashing. So Sin is now at half or a little bit less, 6 hit points. 6. Okay. And she needs to make another Constitution saving throw. Come on, Sin, you can make this. Con. She makes it. That's a good thing, because if not, she'd have been paralyzed. She is nasty. Quasgal Wild Blight. All right, the soldier will swing. I'm just going to roll D20. Because he's just a regular old soldier. A 9 will not strike, but you see him try to hit her with the pike. The second one makes another roll with the stench. He makes it. He's fine. He also tries to swing in and take a bite out of this creature. But he rolls a 9, so 2 misses from the soldiers. They're trying to help out, but they're not gaining purchase or damaging this creature. We're back at the top of the round. Sin is able to swing her short sword once again. Did that score? No, Sin also... It's crashing off of the toughened skin of this creature. She's not able to latch onto any damage, but she keeps herself in front of her. It is your turn.
I'm like, if we could take this fight outside, that would be so ideal. Move out and clear out a space, that would be. And as I throw out a chromatic orb.
All right. Yeah, nice one.
All
One
right.
strikes her full in the face.
And
Ooh,
that one's
13 fire. Nice.
Yep. Great damage.
So that's going to be...
I don't even know the other things I can use a chromatic orb.
Yeah, so she is definitely getting scorched. She's definitely moving slower. She is hurting badly. She's wounded in many spots. She lets out a cry. She tries to swing out and hit one of the soldiers. She actually tries to bite down on one of the soldiers, grabs him and bites him. Yeah, she bites right into his neck, and he just goes down. She kills one of the soldiers with a bite to his neck. One of the soldiers swings back.
Armor. Even Ian has a better armor than the.
Oh, what's this doing here? There we go. Let me bring up the dice roller. 1d20, that's all I need. Just nice and easy. Yeah, he hits for a d6. One more point. Jeez, come on. She's still going. All right, top of the round. Sin tries to hit with her short sword. Yes, strikes true. Oh, Sin stabs it in the back as it's tried to push its way through. She had grabbed onto one of the soldiers and bit his neck and killed him, had pushed Sin to the side and was about to try to charge to you when Sin drives her sword through her back of her spine, and you see her kind of let out a scream. Her shape flickers from the nun shape back to the creature shape, and then she falls to the ground dead.
Fucking good riddance. God damn. I look over to the bloating bodies. Are they still super bloated?
No, it looks like you must have interrupted the ritual that it did not complete. But you see some other bodies that must have been bloated and had exploded. And you're starting to kind of put two and two together that whatever this ritual was, is that she was using these corpses to summon these nurglings, and they would burst out of the stomachs of these corpses.
I look over to Caliban and Samir, and I go over and I start checking them. I just slap them in the face to see if they're.
Yeah, you can see their eyes are open, they're breathing, but they're not able to move. It appears to be that they're paralyzed.
All right, so that's a huge relief on me.
They're both and it wears off. I think that wears off in about a minute time, I believe.
Yeah, that'll wear off, and I go over and I look at the bodies, and I see if all of them are paralyzed or if they're dead.
All the other bodies seem to have been ritually killed as part of the ritual. It seems like some type of sacrifice, and they were either carriers for what she was bringing in, or they were part of this ritual and had been killed as such.
I was like, God. Well, that's the last time I try and do anything nice. Every man for themselves, I'm telling you.
And the soldier's looking at you and is like, he starts to go. He's like, I'm going to get some torches. I'm going to burn this place down.
I'm like, no need. And I tell Sin to grab one. And as I'm walking out, I just light my palm on fire and I light the place on fire.
Yeah, the hay catches, and this is an old rickety building, and it just bursts into flames and matches the second bright light in the night now of one coming from the tent that's still burning to the north, and now this barn that's on fire. And there's now a pretty big crowd of soldiers and townsfolk that have gathered kind of in this courtyard area and are watching this barn burn.
I make sure to kick Queen stupid face. And I even throw like an extra firebolt at her. of anger.
Yeah, and as you're sitting there, Caliban has comes to, and he starts apologizing to you profusely. He said, I couldn't tell you, I couldn't stop it. When we started unloading the bodies, the nun came up and she cast some spell on me that forced me to follow her directions, like some type of command or some type of charm that I couldn't break. And I was trying to tell you when we were walking back to the thing, but the whatever magic she had over me just wouldn't let me tell you.
I say, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's on me. It's what we get for being nice. Stupid. Never trust a nun who has a silver flask and shows skin and is okay in a brothel. Ah, you know who would have seen this coming? Tauger would have seen this coming. God damn it. No one, I'm just like, no one. Just no one tell him that this was a regular nun, did nunly things, was appalled by a brothel.
All right, so yeah, the sunrise kind of comes along, and you hear a little bit of grumbling in town, and actually you see Gunther's there also, and he kind of comes up to you and he says, "It might be a good time for you guys to get moving. There's some rumors starting to float around that a few people thought you were the ones that brought them here, and I think you might want to leave before that spreads."
Yeah. I tell Gunther to stay safe. And tell Aiden to stay safe. And I give him some sort of trinket.
Yeah, he says, I'm sure it'll die down, but just for now, but while tensions are high, and then we'll put in a good word, because obviously you're the ones that stopped them, and but they're also a little worried about all the fire you throw around. And he looks at you with awe. He says, bright wizards don't usually come to the villages, and we don't see displays of that kind of power very often. He says you might want to be careful with how much you show to people the power you have.
I will keep that in mind, Gunther. Thank you so much. As I say this through Samir. Friend. Let's head out, guys.
Yeah, so you guys head north, and along the road, you kind of are heading back, and you see some more. You see a couple of cavalry units coming down from the north. It looks like they're heading from the battle back down towards the town. You see a unit of soldiers that rides from the south. They must have come from Astomar or somewhere further south, and they seem to be heading to the north. You come upon the guards that were... you see the guards up ahead that are kind of guarding the road, the same group that you saw before. You can either head off-road at that point before you see them, or you can interact with them if you want.
I go hella off-road. I'm like, hey, this looks like a good place to start heading. I think I see one of your marks up there, and I just walk off into the forest.
Yeah. Everybody is kind of cautious, and they all follow you, and you get back to your little trail that leads you back east towards the portal, and you make it through. It's only about a half a day's journey. Nothing seems to be around the portal. You don't see anything else disturbed. Caliban makes one last search around to make sure he doesn't see any fresh tracks or anything new. And he gives you the nod that it seems like nothing's been here in the last few days.
All right, sounds good. So, I just want to say good job, everyone. I know some of you might be feeling a little bit down about what happened. And, it's a bummer how they went down. But I think we all learned some valuable lessons today. Don't trust nuns. 2. Don't use a lot of fire. Apparently that makes people nervous. People keep telling me that, but, how could they not think it's so... Anyway, so no one told Talgrim that this was a weird nun. Everybody tell him it's completely nunly. Didn't do any non-nunly things. All right?
And Sin gives you a nod of I'm sure that's what I'll say. You can already see the exaggerated story she's going to be telling of the the Battle of the Nurglings. Samir is quite quiet, and Caliban is quite introspective too, because you get the impression he's embarrassed that he was taken in, and her magics were able to work against him also. So he's definitely brooding a little bit about it as you guys walk back through the portal. Yeah.
And before we split off, I say, might cheer us up seeing some dead zombies. Do you think that might cheer you up? I think it would cheer me up. Over to the other portal and see if we see any of the dead zombies or if they've cleaned them all up. Hey, maybe there's some new ones.
Yeah, and Sin's like, yeah. She pulls her sword out and says, it's going to be a great adventure yet.
And so, like, we're just going to go see it, and then we'll head back, go get a drink. First round's on me. Strong, you, Caliban, Samir. I don't know if you guys drink, but we're drinking tonight.
All right, yeah, so you guys are in the tomb. Do you go back and talk to Wilkins first, or do you go down to the second portal?
I go down to the second portal first.
All right, yeah, so you guys they follow you down there, and you go down to the second portal, and this is the first time any of them have been to this one, and they're just like, oh, I didn't realize there was a, I mean, you guys have said that the second one, but we didn't realize, and this one looks totally different. When you get there, there's no bodies there. There's no corpses of the zombies that had been there before from the previous battle. Everything looks like it's gone. You can see marks where they might have laid at some point, but there's no debris, there's no body parts, there's no drag marks, there's nothing like that. And when you walk up to the portal, it is not on.
And so as we're walking up, I'm showing off the marks on the ground and on everywhere where, the guys attacked them and killed them and stuff. And again, there, Talgrim brought down, actually horned him to death, believe it or not. Tall guy came down with boop. It was really cool. And then over there is where so and so did this, and as I'm coming up, I'm giving them like that tour. And then I look up and I glance over to the portal, and I keep on telling my story, and then I look again and I'm like, what? Up, and I put my hand.
Yeah, you just touched the back. It's like a stone wall of the back of the cave. And you can tell that the stone wall is maybe just a foot past where you think the plane of the portal usually sits. And you just feel the cold stone of the back of the cave wall.
And I do that comedic thing where I turn around and look everywhere, and I'm like, "Aw, did they? I didn't even get to see outside that room. They turned it off. Why would they turn it off? That's so lame. God, they didn't even leave any bodies, man." Well, this is where the portal used to be. I'm sure the guys who, Talgrim and them are back out. And I'm sorry I couldn't show you guys any dead bodies, but here are some cool marks on the ground. Sorry, guys. And I'm like, well, let's go back up and tell Wilkins what we learned and blah, 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 and ask them more. And again, the nun thing, remember? Very nunly. Did very nunly things.
Yeah. So you guys trudge back out, and you get back up to Wilkins, who he gets called back from his office where he's at. And that's when you find out that the group hasn't been back yet. And they've been gone for a couple of days, and they had expected them back by now, but they had not returned.
And then look at Wilkins, and I'm like, what do you mean they haven't returned? The entire place is cleared out. What do you mean they're not back? Are you sure?
He says, yes, I'm absolutely sure that they have not been, and they have not returned. You were the first ones back.
Well, because there's no portal down there.
And he kind of gives you a look. He's like, what do you mean there's no portal down there?
There's no portal down there, Wilkins. You closed it. There's nothing there.
Yeah, he gives this pause, and he says it slowly and quietly, and he looks you in the eyes, and he says, I didn't close any portals. And we'll leave our session there. All right, so that should get you caught up. Now, it'll depend what they do tomorrow night on our Thursday night regular show. You can hang out, and if you want to see what's going to happen. I don't know what you want to do there because I don't know how far we'll get into that and how much they'll figure out. Hopefully they figure out what they need to figure out to get back.
Sure, I'll be watching, see if they ever return to the land of the living.
Yeah. So you're welcome to hang out in the channel because it might happen, midway through the session that they figure out what they need to do, or something else happens, and so you can be there if that happens. Or it might be one of those sessions where they take their time and we wait until they catch up with your timeline.
Absolutely.
But that was just a quick little one shot. Now what's funny about that is that one shot is a little bit of a plagiarism from the book, the Warhammer book called The Black Hearts. It's a story in there of two of the main characters that helped this nun out, sister of Shala, and then realize that they've helped bring this little Nurgle infestation into this town, and do the same thing you do. Realize what happens, go confront her, take her out. They get arrested though because they get blamed for bringing the nun there in the first place. So I thought that would be a cool thing to do because you guys are in the Warhammer world, in that world. So I thought it'd be cool to do a Warhammer story in the Warhammer world.
No, it's super cool. Oh man, and you know what? I was just gonna leave. I was absolutely. What was gonna happen if I just left them there?
Oh yeah. So their plan, out of character wise, is they were trying to spread chaos to the staging point in the south to allow them to win the battle in the north. So she is a cultist of Nurgle who concocts this plan to disguise herself and create this problem. So best case is she comes down here and she creates so many Nurglings that she can just wipe this town out, and then they can't use it as a staging point, and that's going to hurt the battle that's happening in the north. Not quite as good a case, but she'll live with it, is if she can create enough chaos that they have to pull back, or she's able to hurt enough of the soldiers that they can't reinforce. And then worst case for her is that somebody interferes, which is what you guys did.
Oh, would she have? So she would have just brought Nurglings down from.
Yeah, what they are is they're these bodies that she got have diseases in them, and they have these like little. Think of them as almost like little eggs waiting to be hatched. And if she performs this ritual, then 10 or 15 Nurglings pop out of these bloated corpses. So she was just going to keep doing that to these corpses that she had infected with these little seedlings to smuggle them in. So the people were alive that she brought in that had these things in them. That's how she was going to get them in there first. And then she was going to start performing the ritual to make all these Nurglings pop out of these diseased corpses as each one of them died. So she had the potential of, if she kept the ritual going with all the corpses that you would have seen in there, she probably could have had a couple of hundred Nurglings had she been left alone and nobody found her.
So if we would have come back later after the fact, if we had left her there, those soldiers would be hella dead, right?
Oh, like her plan on the road? What was she going to do on the plan on the road?
Yeah.
Yeah, what she actually was going to do is they were going to try to turn her around. She was then going to try to bypass them by going off-road, go around them, and then make it down to the town.
So she would have made it around anyways.
Yeah, that had been her plan to get to that town. Yeah, she was going to find a way to get there.
We should have stolen her chest of money. You know what? It's fine. Lessons for next time. A, don't trust nuns. And B, take the money.
Yeah.
Man.
So I'll say thanks to Nathan
fun,
Long, the author, because that's part of his story. If you want to read some of that stuff, it's called The Black Hearts. Omnibus is what I got. It's a good book to read for getting in the mood of the Warhammer world. So it's a good one to check out. But that is our one shot for the evening. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the recording. Thanks for anybody that's joined. I'll probably post this on YouTube so they can watch it. So thanks for joining.